When he first appeared at Bathurst in 1969 to join the new Monaro factory team, it was clear he was something special. A new star from Hurstbridge, Victoria, discovered by the wily Harry Firth to challenge the established order of the day. The Gagan brothers, Fred Gibson, Barry Seaton, Kevin Bartlett and others. His first win for Holden came in 1972, a crushing victory for the new Tirana XU1 over arch-rival Alan Moffat's Falcon GTHO. The battle between Brock and Moffat became legendary. The emotion-charged, tough-talking Canadian driving for the Blue Oval, head-to-head with Australia's golden boy firmly entrenched in the lion's den. Brock's victories mostly came at Moffat's expense. The first win in 72 started a chain of 9 Bathurst crowns, 9 Sandown wins, 3 Australian Touring Car Championships, and led to the mantle of Peter Perfect. Brock joined Bradman and Brabham as icons in Australian sport. Despite hanging up his helmet in 1997, Brock couldn't quench the fire in his belly for one more Bathurst win. Mount Panorama exudes a magnetic aura, drawing you back for the challenge year after year. The costs can be high, but the victories are unique. At 58 years of age and 34 years after his first Bathurst appearance, Brock is back where he started, Monaro mounted, and with a stellar cast of co-drivers hell-bent on delivering Peter his perfect 10. The Bathurst 24-hour endurance race, a truly international event. A battle for the world's fastest road cars in a race against time itself. Man muscling the mountain, Monaro monstering the world, the maestro mastering the odds.
Bathurst in central western New South Wales, normally at this time of the year, is dry and dusty. Well, not at the moment. It is green and wet, very wet in fact this morning. The good news is the grey skies are clearing, the blue skies are breaking through and the sun is shining. Hello everyone, welcome to Mount Panorama for the Bathurst 24-hour race. Once again, the world's best are here. The great racing stables from Europe, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Porsche, Alfa Romeo and BMW. They've all come here to challenge the champion, Australia's own Holden Monaro. Not only do we have the world's best drivers, we've got the world's best commentators as well. And David Addison, great to have you back.
Mark, thanks, great to be back.
And Craig Denyer, what a long way this race has come in a year.
Oh, absolutely, Mark. I mean, when you think about it, it really is the World Cup final for the world's fastest road cars. Folks in Australia on the front row. I mean, how good is it?
Now, 45 cars on the grid, 175 drivers from 11 countries. It really is. This is going to be a hell of a race.
Yeah, not only that, of course, you've got about 22 different manufacturers in there with some 33 different models. So all the stats are there for just a superb race.
Now, David Addison, can anyone topple the Holden Monaro? Can the Mosler do it this year?
I'd like to say yes. I suspect I'll get lynched if I predict anything other than a Holden win. I mean, let's face it, everybody in Australia practically wants Peter Brock to win, don't they? It will be a marvellous achievement, but the opposition to the Monaros this year will be much, much tougher, and certainly the Ferrari that David Brabham is the lead driver in is going to be a good car. That's going to be a dark horse for a win. And depending on what the weather throws at us, of course, if it's wet in the middle of the race, I reckon one of the Class B, the less powerful Porsches, could well spring a surprise, and Uwe Altzen with Jürgen Altzen and Michael Bartels, ex-Grand Prix driver in that car, that could be a car to watch, and it could be a winning car, you never know.
All right, we're looking forward to a great race. There are a lot of car names that you do know here, and a lot of driver names that you do know, and a lot that you don't. Names like the Mosler and the Morgan will explain as the day goes on. But from around the world, the best drivers have come to challenge our very own homegrown talent.
For years, the romance of Mount Panorama has attracted hungry crowds who soak up its redline fever like a religion. But our national secret is out, and the love affair with motorsport's Mount Everest is proving a challenge too strong to resist for lead-footed explorers from around the world. Let's meet them. British touring car drivers like Tim Harvey head up a healthy dose of pommy pie, here to steal our crown.
I came here in the sort of good old days of the Super Touring race. Did it twice with Peugeot, last time with Volvo back in '97, but obviously one of the greatest tracks anywhere in the world. Always wanted to come back.
They congregate in the garages of the Poms. After taking out second place last year, Martin Short returns in his striking 5.7 litre Corvette Chev Mosler, ready to munch on some Aussie Monaro.
I think we've come a lot better prepared. The car's a lot better. We've had a year of development under it. We've won the British GT Championship with the car. Well, we certainly enjoyed it last year, and I'll be delighted if we make it to the podium again this year.
No Mark has a better record of reliability under the immense pressure of endurance racing as the Porsche. Brazilian Thomas Erdos lines up as a clear threat to the Aussie-occupied throne, but nothing could prepare the former British GT champ for his first glimpse of Bathurst.
We did go around the road car very slowly, and I mean, it's just incredible as you go up the mountain, just a sheer incline to get up there, and then obviously to get all the way down the mountain again. It's just, as you say, it's like a roller coaster.
In the red, white and blue corner is a man ready to fight. FA-18 pilot Paul Jenkins, an ex-Navy SEAL, on a mission of no mercy.
I flew off the deck of USS America in the first Gulf War, and I stayed with it for almost 10 years and left it behind for Ferraris.
No sex, please. We're British, and nothing is more mother country than a Morgan. Break out the bangers and mash Neil Cunningham's BMW-powered pocket rocket is no pile of mushy peas, although it is still made out of wood.
It's going to be a good car around here. Last time I was on Holden. I've never got the Morgan. We've got our fingers crossed for Sunday afternoon.
Saddling up inside will also be the youngest driver in the race. Tom Shrimpton will have only just got his P plates 2 weeks ago in Australia. At 18, the Morgan culture is over his head. He just hopes the kangaroos aren't over his bonnet.
We were up at Skyline yesterday and we saw a couple jumping around, so as long as they don't cross the track, I don't really mind. I'd love to see a few more, though.
So Australia, national pride rests on the shoulders of these men, of the mighty Monaros. In just 1 year, the Bathurst 24-hour race has not just turned a new page, but a whole chapter. The melting pot of new drivers, cars and speeds is a shake-up for the boys from Oz.
I think the advantages that we have is obviously we know the circuit extremely well. We're a lot wiser as far as 24-hour racing goes after one event, and no doubt we'll be a lot wiser come Sunday afternoon.
And the Monaros have proven they are the ones to catch at the moment. A lot of support here, as you would always expect at Mount Panorama, for Peter Brock. Well, we're about 20 minutes away from the start of the Bathurst 24-hour. Back with more of the action right after this.
Move it, people.
Thank you very much, Grant. Look forward to your work during the course of the race. Well, from Monaros to Moslers to Morgans, there are 45 different cars on the grid. And while the race is for outright victory, there are 5 different classes. It can get a little bit confusing. Alison Drower makes it sound simple.
When we're trying to explain the class categories of the Bathurst 24-hour, we usually start with Class A, the In Your Dreams category, the A standing for absolutely out of your price range. At the other end of the spectrum is Class E, the Eat My Dust category, reserved for the smaller powered cars that are big on attitude.
Class A is our fastest category. Australian Nations Cup Championship, which is run all year with us. Monaros, Ferraris, Porsches. We also invite FIA and GT cars from Europe, which are the same speed, British GTO vehicles and cars like that.
It's just different coming to this circuit. We're just so far away from home. So we're planning probably 7-8 months before we ship the container, which is shipped 6 weeks before the event.
When you win, obviously, I'm not so sure you've got a lot to prove, but you probably want to do it for your own personal reasons.
While Class A entries obviously have the top line speed, they are heavier and will work the brakes and tyres much harder. So don't write off Class B for outright, like last year's category winner VJ Angelo in his BMW Coupe. VJ Angelo, how realistic is it for you guys to aim for an outright this weekend?
Just about zero chance. Well, having said that, it's a 24-hour race. The Ferraris and the Monaros proved last year they could fall to bits. So I wouldn't say zero, but it's got to be close.
Class D covers the GT performance cars, just like Gary Holt's Lancer Evo there. And if any category likes a bit of grunt and shunt in their racing this weekend, at least the parts are cheaper.
A great finish here would be a top 10 place in the outright and naturally first in Division D.
We believe we can do a 1-2 in class. I mean, they're BMWs, so they're a great car. And if everything goes
is right. There's every possibility of a top 5 finish.
The final two categories, classes E and F, cover the drivers who have come to Bathurst to, well, just be here. It's all about being in it and finishing. These are production cars, the most affordable way to attempt a 24-hour.
We're not going to outrun a V8 Holden or Ford or a BMW Super Tourer from Germany. We're not going to beat them at all. But what we did last year just didn't stop. We just, every couple of hours, changed the driver. We never opened the bonnet for 24 hours. We never put tyres in the car for 24 hours. We just had an absolute blast, and we got 3 cars home, and we ended up being the top 3. That's what we're aiming for, a win again. We've got 8 cars to beat, but we'll be right.
A budget for a 2-car team like ours is just over $100,000 for the weekend. I hate to think what it costs to run some of the more exotic machines, but this is, in motorsport terms, it's relatively affordable, and you know, really we're here to have fun, and if we stop having fun, we'll go home.
So the Bathurst 24-hour is all class, an event that's fast becoming Australia's holy grail on the world stage. No offence to that Holden guy that won here in that other Enduro a couple of weeks ago.
Well, the crowd is settling in. It is all happening down on the grid at the moment. Let's get down there now. Here's Grant Denyer.
Look at these wily characters, guys. You were the heroes last year. You're on pole position again. Is it a good feeling, Stephen? I'll start with you.
It is, mate. Pole position is always the best place to start, no matter what type of race you're in. So, no, we're all looking forward to it. I know we've all got butterflies at the moment. It's this position on this track does that to you. So we're looking forward to the Just Cars whole Monaro rocketing around all day and all night, and hopefully hitting the field.
It still does it to you, even though you've actually won a couple of Bathursts before?
Oh, always this place. I think, you know, it's such a long event. It really draws upon on 4 guys, 30 people in a team, and with 2 cars this year. So, you know, we're all pretty pumped up, and it's just that sort of place.
Who's got the night shift?
I think that'll be me again. I got outvoted, but
the short straw.
Plenty of carrots, mate. So I've never seen number 1 on this grid here, so I'm quite excited by it. But no, I think I'll jump in about 6 or 7 o'clock, and we'll rotate throughout the night. Should be a bit of fun.
Am I going to depress you too much if I say that thunderstorms and more rain is on the way?
Yeah, I'm a pretty heavy sleeper, so Garth might do the whole night stint in that case. But they believe that it is going to rain, so that'll be pretty action-packed, I think.
Garth, such a highlight of your career last year, taking the win. How do you feel about coming in the second time round? Is it an advantage having done this before now?
Yeah, absolutely, Grant. Last year we had no idea what we were getting ourselves in for. This year, at least we got a bit of an idea what a 24-hour racing is all about. But like Richo said, you just got to stay out of trouble and go around all day, all night. And if you don't have any dramas, then you'll come out somewhere near the front. And that's our plan. We don't want to be heroes. We just want to be there at the end. If you're there at the end, you've got a very good chance of winning the race.
You guys, what a combination. You all hate each other so much, you know. No one's having fun.
Is that obvious?
Best of luck to you all. Australia wants you to win. The hope of the nation rests on your shoulders. I don't want to put too much pressure on you, but best of luck to you all.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Grant, I think they're up to it. Now, the good news this year is there is a second Monaro, and for Holden fans, it has a 05 on the side, and it is red. Rocky's in the team, and so too is the Bathurst 1000 winner. Who better to take us for a tour around Mount Panorama than Greg Murphy?
Well, welcome aboard the 05 Just Car Insurance Holden Monaro. Here we go for a lap at Bathurst for the 24-hour. Crossing the start-finish line now, accelerating up to turn 1. Very close to just over 200 kilometres an hour, down to second gear, accelerating on the mountain straight. Great part of the circuit coming up here. It's a really steep climb, a lot steeper than what it looks on the TV. As we crest the hill here, under Holden Bridge, hooking 6th gear on the Monaro, 250 odd kilometres an hour, hard on the brakes. Down to 3rd gear, yeah, copy that. Grippers bend now, accelerating through there at 3rd gear, up to 4th, underneath another Holden Commodore there, back down to 3rd, coming into the cutting. Great part, another great part of the circuit, the whole circuit's fantastic. Through Donut King cutting, accelerating out of there, 2nd gear, up to 3rd, through the kink, up behind another slower car this time, through Falcon Bend by the tree, up to 4th gear, over into Reed Park. Sensational corner this, really loads up the car, fast through here, McPhillamy over the kink here, 4th gear on the limiter through McPhillamy into this fantastic part of the circuit, Skyline, Holden Skyline, 4th gear back to 3rd, down through this as the track starts to really drop away here. Oh, BMW on the way, through Victoria Bend Dipper, accelerate through there, 2nd gear, 3rd gear, Monaro, we're up to 4th gear through this section, 3rd, really dropping away down into the last quarter onto the main straight. Accelerating through Forest Elbow, hard on the gas. Third, fourth, Monaro accelerates very quickly up through the gearbox. Fifth, sixth gear, dropping away. Coming down to the crest, over the crest now, accelerating through at 255, 260 kilometres an hour. El Monaro's getting up to the limiter as we get down to the chase, get down this straight very fast through the chase, sixth gear, hard on the brakes. Down a couple of cogs, third gear, through the left-hander, accelerating hard, up through the gearbox. This time I'm going to the bits, but that's pretty much a lap of the fantastic Bathurst Mount Panorama circuit. Pit lane.
And that's the view from the 7-litre Holden Monaro. There it is, the car to beat the defending champion. We're back with the start of the Bathurst 24-hour in just a moment. Well, final preparations well underway now for the Bathurst 24-hour race. Just a few minutes to go until we get them underway for 2003. There's no doubt a lot of attention here at Bathurst is on Peter Brock at 58 years of age. The Master still has plenty of pace, and he's with Grant Denyer now. Grant.
Peter, you're starting off position number 2. That's hardly a consolation prize. This is your race, isn't it? Are you feeling confident about the moment? You have a mortgage on the place.
Well, the car feels effortless to drive. It doesn't feel like it's got any fragile sort of areas about it. The guys are very confident of the fact that they can do the job as drivers. So, all in all, I'm giving myself a pretty good show of winning this race.
Where do you place most of your competition? Is it in the yellow Monaro? Is it from international drivers?
Well, probably the international drivers will step up to the mark, but I would think it'll be into the race a little. It may not be, but that's the way it seems to be shaping up at this point. Early on, well, I'll just be keeping an eye on what Nathan's doing. He'll probably keep an eye on me, but I don't want to race them. I want to do what we think is the right speed for this Monaro to do more kilometres in the next day than any other car.
I think fair to say that cars like the Mosler behind you might be watching your brake lights and where they come on. They're still learning the circuit, so you still do have an advantage.
Yes, indeed, yeah. I think wearing the black shorts here is always going to be good because you just get to know every little bump, you get to know where the puddles of water lay, and you have a sense of confidence that, yes, I belong here, this car belongs here, we can do it.
What's 9 Bathursts plus 1?
Well, it is a good number. There's no doubt about it. It would make a lot of people happy, and I suppose I could say it'd be the perfect 10.
And it is fantastic too, because 350 million people also watching it around the country. This event is like no other.
It is, and I believe that it'll be a great test of man and machine.
Best of luck to you, Peter. The country's hoping for a great result.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
And just a few minutes away from a start now for Brocky and the rest of the grid. 45 cars in all for this year's Bathurst 24-hour race. 175 drivers from 11 nations. They've come from around the world. Stables that we know, like Lamborghini, Ferrari, BMW, Alfa Romeo, of course, our own Holdens and Fords. But also on the grid, unusual names like Mosler and Morgan, cars that we haven't seen so much of. And Andrew Marriott's down on the grid now. Andrew.
Yeah, but I'm with a famous name. It's David Brabham. David, rain is forecast. I guess you'd like to see that coming down.
Yeah, the Ferrari handles really good in the dry and it handles really good in the wet. So really, whatever the mountain throws at us, the car's going to be a joy to drive, that's for sure.
OK, thanks very much, David Brabham. Well, he's hoping for the rain, guys.
Thanks very much, Andrew. And David Brabham, interestingly, has been walking around all morning in his Wallabies jumper. So he's hoping for a double Australian win. Alrighty, to sing the Australian national anthem, 8-time Golden Guitar winner Adam Brand.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free, with golden soils and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing. Advance Australia fair.
Well, there'll be a lot of singing of that national anthem over the next 24 hours. And now, for those all-important words to get us underway today, the Minister for Transport and Regional Services, the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, the Honourable John Anderson.
Drivers, start your engines.
And with those words, the crews clear the grid, the engines fire up, and we are minutes away from getting them away for the next 24 hours around Mount Panorama. 6.2 kilometre circuit. They'll do about 500 laps of it over the next 24 hours. Here's Grant Denyer.
Well, Martin Short, you sit in probably one of the most exotic motor cars here on the grid at the moment. Second last year. You know so much more about this mountain now.
We do, and we got ourselves a decent setup last night, so I'm much more confident than I was, and we're going to see what we can do with these guys.
We look forward to it. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Well, Martin Short and the Mosler, beautiful looking car, very, very quick too. Finished in second place last year, would dearly love to step up one, upset those Monaros. It is going to be a big ask here on this circuit. There they are, up the front. The number 427, the defending champions in the yellow Monaro, and the 05, the red Monaro, unmistakably driven by Brocky. Just about to take off on their first lap. It'll be a warm-up lap, and they will come back and start as they cross the start-finish line for the second time. Clearing the grid. The engines are running, and we are minutes away. Let's go upstairs and join our commentators now. David Addison, Grant Boyden and Craig Denyer.
Thank you, Mark. Well, 131 Australians, 16 from the UK, 10 New Zealanders, 5 Germans, 3 Austrians, 2 Danish drivers, 2 from the USA, 1 Brazilian, 1 Italian, 1 Indonesian, 1 Malaysian. One hell of a race field, David Anderson.
We said last year this event would pick up. We said it was going to become bigger and better, and there is the proof. A fantastic grid lined up, ready for action.
Can't wait for the start of this one. The safety car will lead them off, but we must point out straight away, the minute the cars start rolling, this race is underway. The clock will be ticking, the countdown will be on for 2003.
Oh, what's going to happen, folks? It's Australia taking it to the world one more time, but not one Monaro this year. We've got 2 Monaros, the one that won the race last year, the 427 litre Just Cars insurance car, but Brock, an 05, back in the red Monaro, second fastest yesterday in qualifying, starting alongside his teammate in this race. Will this be Peter Brock's 10th Bathurst win? Away they go. We've got the green flag. So the 24-hour endurance race here at Mount Panorama is now underway. They'll do 1 lap behind the safety car, then take the green flag.
That's the way it looks. Only 23 hours and 59 minutes to go in this one. A long, long journey. A tough racetrack to do it on. Sun is shining at the moment. The forecast is for rain. How is it all going to pan out? As you said, Craig, 2 Australian cars, but David, a very strong international contingent this year.
Well, that's right. You've got the Mosler, you've got the Ferrari, you've got some of the European teams running in Group B as well. And with the Monaros on the front of the grid then, Nathan Pretty will start in 427 and Peter Brock in 05 alongside him.
Then we go back to row 2 on the grid. There is the BMW. John Bowe, Crick, Crompton and Algardri Short on alongside them out of position 4 with Pierce, Lamb and Spurl.
Back to position 5, John Chulin, the Porsche 911 GTRS in the hands of Morris Fitzgerald and Scott Shearman as well. Then the sensational Lamborghini Diablo, Paul Stokel, the Dane, Alan Simonson, Luke Hilden, Peter Hackett.
7th on the grid, David Brabham starts in the Ferrari. He shares with Klaus Engelhorn, Philippe Peter, Andrea Montermini. Uwe Altsen is 8th on the grid in the Porsche with his brother Jürgen, Arno Clausen and Michael Bartels.
Next row sees Tony Quinn, Clark Quinn, Marcus Marshall and Grant Denyer line up. Alongside them, Peter Floyd, Ian Donaldson, Liz Halliday and Andrew Donaldson.
More Porsches to come. Mike Newton, Tommy Erdos, the British GT champion, I should say. Manfred Urash, who was here last year. Rod Wilson. Then the Certec Porsche, British touring car champion. Tim Harvey, Jonathan Rowland, Herman Tilke, Melinda Price.
It's Paul Freestone that starts 888, the Porsche, with James Konduris, Will Power and Des Wall, and a big question mark over the next car on the grid. Alex Young, the ex-Minardi Grand Prix driver with the BMW that may not start with an ECU problem.
Adam Sharp will line up along on the next row of the grid with Neil Cunningham, Asler and Shrimpton, the young man we heard about a few moments ago, Parker, Walters, Sala and Gazzard alongside.
Group B car, Vijay Angelo, Rick Shaw, Mark Williamson, Scott O'Donnell, then the Holden Commodore VX, the Cromer exhaust car of Steve Williams, Graham Moore, Terry Bosanjak.
Peter Boylan starts number 19, the M3 BMW. He shares with Jeff Morgan, Peter Hansen and Rick Bates, and then lining up alongside a car that was crashed in the wet qualifying session of Graham Alexander, John Woodbury, and then the car, Brett Yulden.
Then we've got Mark Westbrook, Moore and Mitchell. They're out of position. 21, 22 sees Gary Holt, Gary Young, Michael Brock and Kevin Mundy.
Keep on moving through the field. The Bruce Lytton BMW car 23, the Mountain Racing BMW M3 E46 of Mountain, Wilson Brooks and David Gooding.
Dio Condoris will start the Ferrari with Richard Wilson, Paul Jenkins and Ian Palmer. Alongside them, Gary Dean, Robert Rubis and Dean Wanless with the Subaru.
In 27, it's the Nissan, Pilkington, Cribben, Hill and Hooker. Then we go to the BMW of Russell, Cramp, King and Stubber.
And they keep on coming, folks. The Falcon GT of Haynes, Falk, Phillip and Schumack. The Toyota Altezza from New Zealand of Tomlinson. The brothers, Andrew Neal and Mike Eadie.
Mark Cohen starts in number 31 with Fabian Coulthard returning to these shores to race, and they're alongside the Subaru. Rod Sam and Wayne Boatwright, the leading drivers.
We go back to Chanda, Gillespie and McFarlane. Harrison on alongside them with Kilpatrick and Johnson and Catchlove.
Russell in the Commodore from Luff, Loesman and Ian Luff, father and son. Then Dean, Pye and Smith in the Falcon GT.
Then the Honda, Anton Meckler, the leading driver there with Charlie Kovacs, and the Mitsubishi Mirage, Peter Lehoy starting 38th on the grid.
It almost seems endless. 39th, McElroy, Douglas, Stillwell and Kirkham. Haysom and Wood in the car alongside.
McGill in the Ducks Hot Water car back there in position 41. The Alfa Romeo 156 GDA in position 42.
Then Toyota and Honda on the next row of the grid. More variety here.
Out of position 45, it's also a Toyota Celica. Bornes, the chief pilot of that one, rounding out the 45 cars that will take part in the 2003 Bathurst 24-hour at Mount Panorama.
Presented by Formula Green, Eagle Boys Pizza, Welcome Australia. Monaro returns and two of them on the front row as we come down behind the safety car, getting set for the green flag to single the first race at speed. 3 or 4 drivers per car in the race stats, a maximum of 3 hours per driver in each car, 1 hour between they must have at least 1 hour rest between the driving stints. Total driving time per driver, a maximum of 9 hours.
Well, let's see how we're going to shape up this year. The safety car will pull off to pit lane and we will be underway at race pace. The two Holden Monaros side by side, already starting to get a bit push and shove alongside each other. Let's see how it's going to be at the end of lap 1. The Mosler sitting back there on the second row of the grid. We are standing by for a real racing start.
Nathan Pretty and Peter Brock side by side. Then the sensational BMW M3 GDR, then the Mosler, then of course it's the Fitzgerald Falcon Tyres Porsche coming down to take the green flag and signal the start at race speed of the second 24-hour endurance race live from Mount Panorama Bathurst.
And it's going to be Nathan Pretty who dives into the lead of Shell Corner. Peter Brock goes second, third is John Bow, Martin Short fourth as they climb a mountain straight for the first time, and the Mosler and the BMW side by side, but Martin Short just powers ahead there.
Yeah, Martin Short really got the power down exceptionally well out of Shell Corner. Really got the horsepower working in his advantage, moves up into third spot, and the Fitzgerald car, the Porsche in the mix as well.
45 cars in this race, folks. Watch the yellow and black Lamborghini coming through now with a green and blue Porsche alongside. That's the car to watch, the car that we thought would take pole position from the Monaros. It didn't. We had one dry qualifying session, then a wet qualifying session. The Lamborghini had problems in the first session. They had to change the radiator. We really don't know the true race speed of this car.
4 very good drivers on board that Lamborghini. Paul Stokel at the wheel at the moment. I was talking with one of them, Peter Hackett, as we see a little bit of smoke from some of the cars as they head across the top of the mountain for the first time. Hackett said this weekend has been about being consistent and working out what we need to do to win this one. We desperately, desperately want it, David.
Yeah, Martin Short said to me earlier on today as well, he was going to do the heroics in the first hour and then calm down a little bit. So the Mosler running third. Is he going to be able to do anything about the Monaros? Nathan Pretty leads Peter Brock across the top of Mount Panorama for the first time. Martin Short getting away from John Bow, and in turn he's coming under pressure now from Paul Morris in the Porsche.
Yeah, Morris is the one to watch, car 54 now. That's a Carrera Cup car that's been spec'd up to run in the outright class. It's been quick all weekend. Good quality of car drivers in that car as well. Peter Fitzgerald, Scott Shearman, so John Tulin also, who's the car owner. Morris behind the wheel now would be keen to stay on the back end of that BMW.
Didn't Peter Brock say a few moments ago that he was going to sit behind and see what these guys were going to do? He's looking very racy on this opening lap.
Yeah, well, Brock's out for win number 10, and it's a very, very serious attempt that started here last year. He got enthralled by this event, riding with Peter Brock now, absolutely enthralled by the excitement of it. Came back this year, has done effectively a full year in Nations Cup. In this car, he's had 5 wins, and there's no doubt about it, David. Gary Rogers Motorsport and Holden are certainly well ahead of the game when it came to Bathurst this weekend.
Absolutely right. I mean, the car surprised so many people last year with its reliability. It was a great win then, and of course everybody willing Peter Brock on. But look at Martin Short reeling in the Monaros at the end of the lap now. The Mosler right up with Brocky as they head across the line. John Bow dropping back a little bit in 4th place. Now Peter Brock is going to have to get a wriggle on. He doesn't really want the Mosler coming past him. Nathan Pretty inching away, but the fight's off at 2nd place now, look.
Well, the Mosler left sitting in the shadows last year. It's not the case this year. We heard from Martin Short before the start of the race. A new setup, new confidence about his driving ability around this mountain, and what a great car to do it in. Race score shows Nathan Pretty on top. Over Peter Brock, Martin Short, John Bow, Paul Morris, Paul Stokel, Alzen and Quinn round out your race.
Standing fastest lap, 2:23.7 for Nathan Pretty, and the man that knows the car as well as anybody, that yellow 427 Just Car Insurance car that's leading this race, is Cameron McConville. Cam, a great result last year, but there's no doubt about it. You boys at Holden are on the game this year. You mean you've done very, very little laps. The first qualifying session, you nailed the 2 fastest times. Mate, how quick is it?
Oh, look, the car's going really well, Craig. There's no doubt about that. I can tell you I'm more nervous than last year, though. Sitting up here watching the start, I think there's a little bit more pressure on this year, but I've actually only done 7 laps so far this weekend because the car's just really nice to drive, and all of the drivers have done 4 or 5 laps per session, and we came here with new running gear in the car, so our plan was not to do too many miles in practice or qualifying. We really haven't changed a thing in the car since it rolled out of the truck other than a front shock adjustment. So let's keep our fingers crossed for the next 24 hours and hope that the cars keep going without any dramas.
It's a long time to keep your fingers crossed, David Addison.
Just looking as well at what's happening between the Monaros after Martin Short's efforts to challenge Peter Brock. Peter's thought, no, stuff that, I'm going to catch up with the yellow peril ahead of me. You've got the 2 Monaros now running nose to tail as they come down Conrod Straight. Martin Short further in the Mosler, and John Bow looking a little bit closer now as Peter Brock once again has a look at a different side of the road. But Nathan Pretty is not to be denied the lead as they head down towards the Caltex Chase. The 2 Monaros now getting into their stride and starting to edge clear of the rest of the field.
So, Cam, you've got the night stint you mentioned earlier, is that true?
Well, I think I'll be hopping in first time. We're going to do single stints at the moment, Craig, so everyone will do a tank of fuel. So probably be about 6:30 when I hop in, and then back in again closer to midnight, I'd say. So last year I had the sunrise stint, which was a lot of fun around here, but I think I might wait and see what the weather does before I put my hand up for that one.
Great onboard shots of Peter Brock, and you can see the concentration, the intensity in his eyes. I mean, this is a serious attempt at his 10th Bathurst win. Andrew in pit lane.
Yes, well, we had 5 cars starting from the pit lane, and this 222 car, the pink Nissan, was one of them. His teammate also started from the pit lane, but an update on the Alex Young BMW. I understand that car is running fine now, so it'll be interesting to see how the former Grand Prix driver gets on.
Yeah, the Alex Young car had lots of problems during practice and qualifying, injector problems. The car on screen at the moment, the 222 car, the Donut King entry, they've had problems all weekend, niggling little problems. An oil valve popped off and almost caused a fire down there in pit lane, but Paul Stokel has found a way past John Bow, so Paul Stokel moves up into 4th spot in the Lamborghini.
Down to Grant.
Greg Murphy, your teammate Peter Brock's looking fairly racy at this stage. You're used to running in a 2-car team. What happens now?
Oh, well, I mean, it's so early on in the race. I mean, the guys are just going to be getting out there, finding a nice pace to be cruising along at without putting themselves in under too much pressure. And, you know, the team strategy would have been absolutely make sure that no one touches anybody, and that's obviously not going to happen. So, you know, we'll just see, going to look and see what the other cars are doing. The Lambo's actually starting to push, and he's moving forward. So, depending on what he wants to do, but really, if someone wants to lead, the guys are really just going to let them go and see what happens. It's just too long a race. The strategy, there really isn't one. It's really about consistency and reliability.
How do you feel about doing a complete Bathurst 1000 by yourself? Because that's the amount of time you'll spend in the car.
Oh, it's a pretty riveting prospect, actually. I'm looking forward to it. You know, it should be great. I mean, we'd never get enough time in the car when we're up here for a 1,000k race, so it's neat to come here and actually have a crack and do some real miles and get some time around this place, which you don't normally do. So I'm looking forward to it.
Hope you're taking your proton pills, mate.
Plenty of them, amongst other things.
Well, 2:17.8 for Paul Stokel. He's the man on the move in car 20. The Donut King Lamborghini, the black and yellow car. Cam, we don't think we saw this car true speed in qualifying. What do you think the chances are for a Lambo to get down to the 13s?
Oh, look, I'd say that might be a little bit adventurous. I'm certainly hoping it is. But we knew that the Lamborghini was foxing or had problems in qualifying. We knew that it should have really been the car on the front row of the grid, and it's showing its true colours now. The pace Nathan's running at is a tad faster than our intended race pace. So, you know, I'd say that's pretty pacey early on in the race. So we'll just have to wait and see. You can see he's trying to pass the Mosler now. So closing in under brakes, and be interesting to see the straight line speed between this Chevy engine Mosler and the Lamborghini, because the Lamborghini's pretty talented in the straight bits I've seen this weekend.
Although the new fastest lap of the race has just been done by Peter Brock, who is once again catching Nathan Pretty for the lead. Paul Stokell dropping back a little in a straight line from Martin Short, but the Lamborghini now looking very dangerous as far as taking that third place is concerned, as they head now once more up to Conacher Bend.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the Mosler in a straight line. It really started to pull away from Paul Stokell then. The previous time across the top of the mountain, Paul was really launching the car around. The back of the car was dancing around, something that you don't want to be doing in the early stages of a 24-hour race. But now look at him go, trying to get up into third spot.
5.7 litre V8, a Corvette-based engine in the Mosler, of course, and a 6 litre V12 Lamborghini steering Paul Stokell. Oh, he thinks about a run down the inside of the Mosler as they lap one of the slower cars. Has to pull out of it, though.
That's the Haysom entry car, 222, back out onto the circuit, so good news for them. Stokell straight down the inside, picks up third spot as they come across Holden Skyline.
Well, I think we know now what the Lamborghini strategy is Cam.
I'm very surprised, I must say. Paul's pressing pretty hard, which is personally not what I'd be doing in a 24-hour race. But anyway, he obviously knew he had a lot more speed on board. The Lamborghini is very strong under brakes. It's probably the best car alongside a Porsche out there under braking. And it was interesting watching that Chevy engine Mosler. It certainly got a lot of straight line speed. And Martin Short was very quick in night practice last night. So we'll have to watch them as well as the day progresses.
Grant?
Well, down here, not a great start so far for the Floyd, Halliday, Donaldson and Donaldson Kawasaki team, part of the Certec Motorsport team, which obviously led the race for 19 hours last year. Seems to be quite a dramatic oil leak. The driver reported that he may have had a flat right rear tyre, but it just appears it was dropping oil onto its rubber. So they're now desperately attempting to get this car back out. So not good news for Certec car number 2.
And of course, they've had a shocker of a run pretty much all weekend too, David.
Yeah, they had clutch problems, they've had engine problems with the cars as well, and now this, so early in the race, yet another problem. Rob Sherl there, the team boss, overseeing all of this, conscious that they're losing time, and the pace of the race this year is going to be so much more aggressive. They can ill afford to do this. Now there's a car to watch, 420, John Bow at the wheel of the BMW, and that is hunting down the Mosler of Martin Short. Martin now losing touch a little with the Lamborghini of the flying Paul Stokell, but Nathan Pretty now goes quicker than anybody. He's just done a 2:17.69, so 4:27 is the quickest car on the circuit.
I guess, Cam, one would have to say Holden's strategy would have to be to run one car right at the front as fast as you possibly can, to break the cars around you. I mean, I'm sure you guys have talked about what your race strategy is, and I suppose you won't share it with us, but one would observe that the idea is to lead the race, try and break the cars around you. If you guys stay together well and truly, but you've always got Brock in the second car circulating there, hopefully maybe to pick up the pieces.
Well, yes and no, Craig. It's certainly we'd like the other cars to break around us, but as long as it's not ours.
Yes.
we actually tend to be a bit conservative, to be honest. So you know, the pace is pretty hot there at the front for a race pace, and we've got a reference lap on the dash, which I won't tell you exactly what that is, but we're trying to stick to that lap time, because we have the dash calculates as you go, so you know whether you're up or down on that particular lap time, and we're trying to stick to that reference lap from lap 1 right through.
Riding with John Bow now, the sensational brand new BMW M3 GTR V8, only arrived in Australia some 10 days ago. One of only 6 in the world, powered by a 5 litre, pretty much a stock 5 litre BMW engine. There's not a lot being done to it, but it's a light car, about 1,100 kilos, will be quick. Superb BMW reliability. One would hope, David Addison, over the 24 hours of this race, but really it's an unknown quantity.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's a good team running it, it's a good team driving it, but they're going to have to make this big step into the unknown, and you can see now as well that John Bow is coming under pressure from Paul Morris. And Cam, we've also had a graphic example on this lap at the top of the mountain of the amount of traffic that they're going to encounter this year. Of course, it's a much bigger entry than last year, but the traffic's going to be a real problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't believe that we're actually lapping traffic already, so it's pretty amazing.
This is the 24-hour endurance race, live from Mount Panorama, Bathurst, and it's Nathan Pretty in 4:27 who continues to lead in the Holden Monaro from Peter Brock, Paul Stokell.
We are back at Mount Panorama as Nathan Pretty leads the second running of the Bathurst 24-hour, hotly pursued by the king of the mountain, Peter Brock, with Paul Stokel sitting there in third in the Lamborghini.
Unsure the Mosley car 900 that was second last year, sitting there in fourth spot from Paul Morris in car 54. John Bower, the BMW, now back to sixth. Then it's Harvey, Brabham, Quinn and Olsen rounding out the top 10.
And the battle then at the moment between the two Monaros, the cars running nose to tail. Behind them, though, further back up into 11th place, the Nash Porsche in the hands of Rod Wilson. 12th is Paul Freeston's Porsche. And in 13th is the quintessentially British Morgan, Keith Arler's at the wheel. And that car running in Class B, one of the less powerful cars, doing a great job. Keith Arler's racing at Bathurst for the first time. The Morgan 13th.
There is Paul Morris at the helm of the Porsche. He's been able to get round John Bower and relegate him back one spot. Doing a good job, returning to the top of the mountain at the moment. They completed 7 laps. 24 hours is a long, long time to go to be official. 23 hours and 39 minutes left on the clock.
Holden Racecourse shows that Tony Quinn is leading Class B. That's Group 2 of Nations Cup from the German team of Olsen, who we saw that superb lap from in the damp conditions here to set fastest time in their Class 2 yesterday, David.
Yeah, Uwe Olsen is somebody that's not done that much racing this year. He's walked away from DTM, in which he's been racing this year. But down in the pit lane, Grant Denyer.
Well, Andrew Smith, you're the team manager of Paul Stokel's Lamborghini. Now, from 6th to 3rd in a couple of laps, that's a good run and putting in some good times. Only 0.2 of a second off the fastest Monaro.
Well, it's the first time he's really gone quickly the whole time we've been here, because most of the time he's been getting the drivers used to the car and the circuit. Our guys have had far less time in the cars and obviously the people in the Monaro and all the other vehicles, so we'll really just get ourselves sorted out and see how we go in the race and try and find what our pace will be.
Considering Paul drives this regularly, he's more than likely going to be the fastest of the drivers. Are you prepared to challenge the Monaros at this stage of the race and get ahead?
I mean, that Monaro's purpose built for this race. There's no way we're trying to, lickety-split the Monaros yet. We've got a long way to go, so we'll just roll along, let them set the pace and see what happens from there.
You're 0.2 of a second off their consistent times. Is there more in the Lambo?
Oh, it's early days yet. I mean, the car's proven itself to be very quick during the year, but this isn't the same car we've raced all year, so it's more purpose-built for this race. So I don't think at the moment I don't think we're anywhere near what the Monaros can do, but as long as we hang in there, we'll be all right.
We're seeing Paul at the wheel working hard. Is he talking at the moment? Is he saying anything about the condition of the track, thanks to the rain or the car?
No, his only concern is all the other guys out there who he's trying to get around at the moment, hoping that he sees it, hoping that they see him.
It's a shame it's the widest car in the field.
Yeah, well, that's why we've got a yellow one, mate. If we had the black one, I'd be really scared.
Thanks, Andrew.
Bye.
At least it's the lowest one. They can perhaps drive under some of them. But what a class field in this car too. Paul Stokel, the Dane, Alan Simonson, Cam, Luke Yulden, who did so well with, of course, the V8 Supercar or the Super Tube team this year. And Peter Hackett drafted in. He did a tremendous job when he raced a support car Lamborghini at the Gold Coast Indy event. So a class field.
Yeah, and apparently everyone at Gary Rogers' team speaks highly of Simonson. They say Alan is quite a good steer. I think Peter Hackett, actually, even though he's quite experienced in a lot of categories, hasn't driven here before. So that'll take him a while to dial in. But this is the kind of event that will be good for him to get used to Bathurst, and the pace, isn't sort of at 10/10 the whole day. So hopefully he'll be able to ease into a pace and just a little bit slower than our pace, that's all.
On board with Paul Stokel. You mentioned Peter Hackett. I asked him in the lead up to this, what do you do having not had many laps around Mount Panorama in such a great car in such a big race? He said basically just go out, concentrate, make sure I don't make a mistake and hand it over to Paul Stokel to do all the work. What do you do when you're preparing for this one? How are you going to approach this race, Cameron?
Well, I suppose, fortunately, I've done a 1,000k race here not long ago, but, really just being consistent when I get in the car, drink plenty of fluids and keep yourself focused and really concentrate. That's what it's all about.
Back in the pits, Andrew Marriott.
Yeah, here's a familiar face, still in his cities. Neil Crompton. The car slipped from 3rd to 6th place, Neil. Has he got a problem? He's just being conservative?
No, not at all, really, Andrew. The main mission at the moment is just to try and drive to a lap time, and that's precisely what JB's doing. So, can't begin to emphasise how long this motor race is going to be. So we don't want to get involved in wearing the thing out before you get to the end of the first hour.
Now, you're in your civvies. I guess that's the best way to stay because you keep cooler.
Yeah, pumping plenty of water into myself at the moment and just cruising, sort of sitting up the back watching all the nonsense go on and taking it easy.
What about this exotic BMW? A lot of excitement surrounding this car.
Pretty interesting motor car, isn't it? It's very different. It's actually quite a nice car to drive. It's quite well balanced. I don't know that it has the absolute outright pace. There's probably a few little things that if we had a little bit more time on our hands that you'd tweak to improve the car. But it's a very enjoyable motor car. It's got quite a good pedigree, as you know, so it's done pretty well in the US. Of course, the big unknown question mark for us is just what happens after 24 hours.
We'll look forward to seeing you in the car, Neil. Thanks.
Thanks, mate.
One of the things we should point out nice and early on, the magical 161 laps around Mount Panorama, which constitutes 1,000 kilometres. These cars, depending on the pace, and the pace they're running about now, should be about 10:15 tonight. So still a long way to go after they reach 1,000 kilometres, David.
Yeah, that's right. And something for Andrew to go and investigate if he can is that we gather the Morgan has pitted. It's been blowing out smoke, and that car is now in the pit lane.
The BMW in the hands of John Bowe, who's won here before. 2 Bathurst wins, and looking forward to perhaps a 24-hour win this weekend. This is the 24-hour endurance race, live from Mount Panorama, Bathurst, as Nathan Pretty continues to lead in the 427 Monaro from Peter Brock, Paul Stokel, Martin Short, Paul Morris's Porsche, then Bowe, Harvey, Brabham in the Ferrari.
Out of 9th position, we have the Ulson crew, Tony Quinn in 10th, Wilson, Freestone, also Kondura Shaw and Williams.
Great to have you back with us live from Mount Panorama, the Bathurst 24-hour race. And the first half hour has passed without any major incident. It is the Holden Monaros showing the way. Nathan Pretty out in front of Peter Brock at the moment. And the pride of English motoring, the Morgan, has pulled into the pits. So as they stand at the moment, Nathan Pretty, Peter Brock, Paul Stokel, Martin Short, Paul Morris, then Harvey, Brabham and Bowe. Let's go down to the pits with Grant Denyer.
Well, the atmosphere down here is about as warm as an English winter day, so it's not real good for the Morgan at the moment. The team were a little bit concerned about some fluid that being released. I thought they were going to be black flagged, so they thought they'd bring the car in on themselves in their own terms and take a look at what it is. They weren't too sure whether it was oil or coolant. As it turns out, as what we can see on the ground, it is coolant, but what it is doing is it's throwing fluid over the windscreen, so he's having a great difficulty seeing, but hopefully they fix that car and it's back out now. We'll have to wait and see.
Some very, very sexy cars in this race, David, and one would argue some very ugly cars. We'll talk about that later. Back down the pits now to Andrew Marriott.
Yeah, another British team in a little bit of trouble. It's the Surtec team. Remember, they led for so long last year. Ian Donaldson's driving the green Kawasaki car. Well, you brought the car in. What happened, Ian?
One of the oil filler cap was loose. The Jubilee clip that was retaining the cap were broken. The cap come loose on the first lap, putting oil onto the exhaust. Hence the smoke. The organisers pulled us in. Okay, the job got fixed, and now they said that as per Peter went around another 3 laps, they sort of still got some oil smoke from the residue from the oil. They've actually made us come back in again, wanted us to do a drive-through, but then the official then held us here. Okay, and now there's a little bit of a fracas going on, but we're all okay. We've got no problem with the car.
Okay, so Ian Donaldson, not a very happy man, folks.
Car that Peter Floyd from Australia is also sharing this car as well, and USA driver Liz Halliday, David.
Yeah, who's done a bit of racing in the UK in Porsches this year. She's been racing in the GT Cup class, started off her motor racing in BMWs, but before that very successful in equestrian, now going to a different sort of horsepower.
Cam, pit stops for the Monaro. When do you expect to come in? Around lap 30, somewhere around there?
Yeah, exactly, Craig. You must have been down in our strategy meeting. But no, we're around lap 30 to lap 32 on the first stint, probably slightly shorter at the first stop, and then we'll let it cough and go to reserve, pretty much a whole tank of fuel thereafter, but yeah, slightly short of the reserve or of the running out of fuel on the first stint.
So through the 24 hours, what do you actually change in the car? I mean, obviously fuel, tyres, do you do a rotor change, pad change at any stage?
Our ambition is to be easier on the car where we can go through without doing a rotor change, but the guys will keep an eye on that on changes, but definitely there will be a pad change, but I wouldn't imagine before the first 4 hours or so. And then, yes, just fluids, really. So we intend not to change much at all. And last year we got through without a rotor change, so we'll just have to see what sort of pace and how hard we have to drive the car to be at the front, obviously.
And having seen what you've seen so far in the 3 qualifying sessions, I mean, who do you think is the biggest threat to the 2-car Monaro team?
Look, I think the Lamborghini's the biggest threat for outright pace. There's no doubt about that. But I still predict it'll be a Porsche towards the end of the race that's running right up at the top end. I think I showed last year with the Surtec team just how reliable and consistently quick they are. And you know, the German product is very, very reliable. 24-hour racing at Le Mans, etc., Nürburgring. So I still believe it'll be a Porsche challenging, hopefully chasing a Monaro towards the end of the day.
Porsche's looking good in Class B of Nations Cup Group 2. The Holden Drive on leaderboard shows that the German car of Olsen leading the Tony Quinn Porsche, then Theo Kondouris, 1 lap down back there in position 13, Rickshaw in 14, Arla's there, well back in 38th.
Yeah, that's because that Morgan's had to make its unscheduled stop with the smoke coming out of the car. We saw it going down the pit lane. Interestingly enough, the team does have a problem in terms of adhering to the pit lane speed limit, to the point whereby to do 40 kilometres an hour, the engine gets so hot and it's in danger of cutting out. So Keith Arla's driving that Morgan has to left foot brake as he goes down the pit lane in order to keep the car at the right speed and yet blip the throttle and keep the revs up so the engine doesn't die.
It's an amazing thing. I mean, I was talking to Neil Cunningham, the Australian driver who's been driving in UK now for so many years, came out here a couple of years ago and drove one of the GTP cars, but he just loves the thing around the mountain. He says it's a fabulous car to drive. Peter Brock has moved into the race lead. Peter Brock up Mountain Straight has unleashed 05 and now has moved ahead of his teammate Nathan Pretty in car 427. Brock is on a mission.
Now come on, Cameron, is that in the game plan? You're looking on very concerned there.
Absolutely not. Brock's supposed to follow us all day until we say so, and that's it.
Yeah, sure.
No, look, we really we were not concerned who leads the race. It's just a matter of running around and not running into each other. So it looks like Peter wants to press on a little bit, and I know our game plan in the yellow car is to, if the red car decides to do that, we'll let them go, even though it is obviously a team effort. We'll just let them press on a little bit.
Let's have a look at the Hankook Tyres replay. This is up Mountain Straight. You can see Brock has pulled out of the draft alongside Nathan Pretty at 427, 05, 7 litres, 427 cubic inches. Moves through beautifully under brakes, going through Konica Minolta.
Yeah, I just wonder if that lap traffic had come into play there and maybe put Nathan off his game going up the mountain on that occasion.
I also think maybe Peter was following very close for some time, might have been getting a little bit hot in water temperature, and this just gives, and you can see Nathan's back right out of it, so I'd say that could well be just to make sure we get some cool air in our car. Peter having a drink there, but he looks quite happy, never looks really stressed.
Happy.
Familiar territory for Peter Brock to be leading Bathurst in a particularly a Holden. First drove here in Monaro in 1969, didn't win the race. But that was when he was picked up by Harry Firth to join the new Holden dealer team at the time. It was a Monaro 350, and this is a Monaro 427. But there's no question about it. Peter Brock has got the eyes on and is absolutely focused on hopefully making this one his 10th Bathurst win.
Looks like he's trying to pull out a little bit of a gap, David, which is a bit of a surprise. Comes onto the start-finish straight, and this time around, on the previous lap, Nathan had a 2.9 second gap. It's 2.1 to Peter Brock now, so it's Brock Pretty at a 2:15.55, fastest lap of the race. He has really turned up the gas.
Absolutely. Peter Brock then completes the lap in the lead. He's getting away ever so slightly now from Nathan Pretty in second place. 2 more to watch, though, a bit further down the order. Tim Harvey and David Brabham now lapping much, much quicker, moving up the order. But let's hear next from Grant Daniel in the pit lane.
Well, Neil Cunningham, these are the problems that we should be seeing later in the race, not right now. The Morgan now is in the garage. What's the trouble?
We had a little bit of a coolant problem, overheating, and now it's got worse. So we just, just on the safety side, we'll pit early and have another good look at it and see if there's a problem we can fix.
Does it gut you in the stomach to see your car now out of the race after just, what, half an hour?
It does, yeah. Yeah, it does. But I think it's only going to be a minor problem. We will be back out there.
So the guys have taken the local water supply and just put it straight in the radiator in a desperate hurry, so it does look like it is a coolant problem indeed.
Yeah, I think the guys will be straight on it. I heard them talk and they reckon they just want to do a quick check over.
I suppose you're itching to get back in the car now.
Yeah, I want to get back in. I'm on the 4th driver lineup, so about 2 hours, 3 hours to wait.
Hard luck.
Yeah.
Well, problems for the Poms. Let's hope it's a sign of things to come later on tonight in the Rugby World Cup final. The Bathurst 24-hour endurance race, live from Mount Panorama. Peter Brock in 05 continues to lead from Nathan Pretty. Stokel third in the Lamborghini, then Paul Morris in the Porsche. Harvey short in the Mosler. David Brabham in the Ferrari, then Bow in the BMW M3 GTR V8.
Alison behind them, then we go back to Tony Quinn, Wilson, Freeston, Kondouris, Shaw, Williams and Linton. Laps in, just over 40 minutes down in this year's Bathurst 24-hour race.
And Holden fans, you have every reason to be delirious because your man, Peter Brock in the Monaro, is currently leading the race. Overtook in 14 laps of this race. We're back now with the BMW Coupe.
Yes, this is leading Class D, the GT Performance class for cars under $160,000. These are essentially road-going production cars with limited modifications. Mark King, who wrapped up the championship this year, leading at the moment in the Wayne Russell BMW that he'd also share with Paul Stubber and Steve Cramp. So they're doing a tremendous job. But this is going to be a very, very competitive class. Road-going production cars. It's really where Mountain Panorama and Bathurst became famous back in the late 60s, this kind of motor racing.
That's right, and of course last year we saw these cars being able to take a very good result. It's not necessarily about the outright speed of these cars that's the key, it's the reliability, and they're going to be up there come the end.
So Cameron McConville looking at Brocky's lap time of a 2:15.5. Definitely not in the script, that one?
No, definitely not, but I've just worked it out. I think Peter wants to lead the race before the telecast ends. No, look, I think he just decided to get some clean air and pick the pace up, but he's dropped back now to sort of the race plan, 17s, 18s, around about that figure, and got a comfortable lead over Nathan at the moment.
Pretty relaxed in the Holden pit.
Yes, it is. It's just such a long way to go. Last year was funny. We were racing out doing, it looks like the Lamborghini's just gone off. I noticed his lap was quite slow the previous lap.
Car 20, that's Paul Stokel. And he's gone off at the Caltex Hamilton Chase, back on the road
and
now.
He's got a puncture, look.
Slow, so yes, a flat right-hand rear tyre as Stokel slowly makes his way back to the pits in the Donut King Lamborghini.
Well, he's gone off at the right place, you could argue. He's not that far from the pit lane. He hasn't got far to limp, but the car very, very slowly making its way down the pit lane. Now, was the puncture the result or the cause of him going off? Either way, he's limping his way down the pit lane. This is agonisingly slow.
Yeah, 17 laps into what we will assume will be a 532 lap plus race. I mean, that's disastrous for Team Lamborghini.
And what heartbreak for Paul Stokel too after such a good start. He's right up there with the leaders. The Lamborghini looked very, very fast, and now he's on his way to the pits for a new tyre.
So that moves Tim Harvey in car 24 now up into the top three. The Hankook tyres replay coming down to the Caltex Hamilton Chase. It's gone flat in the braking area. We're on the way down, and you can see that the rear end just stepped out. He caught it, was lucky enough to get it back on the road, and now almost back to pit lane.
Yeah, that's a real concern. He went offline to pass a car, and we know we've discussed in our race strategy to avoid going offline to pass slower cars as the debris builds, but you wouldn't expect there to be any debris or anything on the track there, so it could just be a simple tyre failure.
Andrew Marriott's in pit lane, right on the spot.
I certainly am, and the right rear is absolutely in shreds. In fact, it's almost come off the wheel. They're going to refuel it first. This is standard practice in endurance racing, so this team really are well versed in the rules, so they're refueling it, then they'll lift it up and they'll pull that tyre off. There doesn't look to be any damage at all to me around the back of the car where it's delaminated, and whether it's a simple puncture or not, we don't know yet, but the fuel is out now. The car, they hear the rattle gun going, and let's see if the wheel comes off easily. It does. A new rear tyre goes on, a new Pirelli, and they're just checking inside the wheel arch there, and they have seen something, so a little bit worried about something they've seen inside. And they're checking the brake line. They're worried that the wheel has actually damaged the brake line, and they're just asking Alan to pump the brakes to see if any fluid comes out of that brake line. And I can't see any on the floor. Yes, there is fluid on the floor.
Dear.
So this is going to be a long stop, folks. They are going to have to change that brake line. So, well, that's going to take maybe as much as 10 minutes. So a big disappointment here for the Lamborghini. So that's the situation. The tyre has damaged the brake pipe.
Wow, gee, Team Lamborghini, I mean, what a blow to Paul Stokel. Also, we've got a problem with car 91. It's the Gary Dean Subaru, and it's stalled at the pit entrance at the moment too, so that could cause some problems. Robert Rubus behind the wheel at the moment, but Cam, bad luck for Paul Stokel after winning the championship in this particular car.
Yeah, that's a real shame, but that's very clever by the guys to have a good look, because if you ruptured a brake line there, then that could be really, really dangerous. So it's smart to fix it. It's a long, long race. We lost 12, 15 laps, I think, last year and won the event, so they've just got to get back out there with minimal fuss and time.
Last year, losing 12 or 15, that wasn't that much of a problem given the entry, but this year, of course, it's so much more competitive, and that's a real handicap now for that team.
No doubt about that, though. I certainly wouldn't want to do that again. I think this year you need to have minimal problems with the depth of the field, but they'll get back out there and just keep pressing on.
Well, Cam, thanks for your commentary, and thanks for joining us up here. It's a big night for you. You did it last year. Let's hope the Just Car Insurance can make it 2 out of 2.
Yeah, thanks very much. Let's hope the good old old Aussie Monaro can do it again, but we won't jinx ourselves yet. Long, long way, and we'll talk a bit later on.
The Holden leaderboard shows Peter Brock continues to lead from Nathan Pretty. Tim Harvey now up to third outright in car 24. Paul Morris in car 54, sitting inside the top 4. Martin Short, the Moslers, dropped back outside the top 6.
Yeah, I think Martin's settling into his own pace now. Of course, they had a number of problems in the first qualifying session getting the setup right for the Mosler. It runs on Yokohama tyres here. It's been running on Dunlops elsewhere all season, and it took Martin and the team a little while to get the car dialed in. It was just too stiff. Eventually, they got it right, and Martin went fourth on the grid in the dark in the night qualifying session last night. But I suspect that what he's doing is what he did last year, and just playing it safe and easy in the first few hours, and then worrying about getting the car to the finish.
Look at Brocky. Great shots from the Holden onboard of the master at work.
He is, isn't he? He is just incredible. The concentration in those eyes and the hand-eye coordination of Brocky is just something else to see. He hasn't lost a thing, has he? At 58 years of age, he is still the master, and he's showing it today.
Back down to the pits, and Andrew.
Yeah, I'm going to dive into the Diablo here and find out. Did it just go down the tyre, or what happened?
Yeah, we had a vibration for the last 2 laps, and I wasn't sure what it was. I couldn't put my finger on it, and then, yeah, obviously it went flat at the end of the straight, so, yeah, I don't know what caused it.
Early on, it had a fantastic run up to third place.
Yeah, the car was doing it quite nicely. I'd settled into a bit of a groove, and we were sort of looking after it, and all the temperature's looking great. So, a bit disappointing this early on, but it's a long race.
Thanks very much.
Well, I guess all the Lamborghini fans in Australia would be quite disappointed by now, David, but of course this is a 24-hour race, and generally every car at some stage in the race has a problem. It's how long the problem costs you.
That's right, yes, it's the amount of time you spend in the pit lane relative to everybody else that really is going to come into play here. And what's great about all of this, though, Craig, is that the car is here. I know that on the Bathurst 24-hour website, for example, there was a lot of discussion about whether the Lamborghini would take part, and Andrew Smith was posting there and saying, well, I'm working on it, and all the fans were chipping in and saying, come on, get the car out. Well, it is great that the Nations Cup winning team and the winning driver is in the Bathurst 24 hours this year.
Well, there goes Brocky in the Monaro. What a great sight, and the Holden fans will be just licking their lips this afternoon seeing the 05, the red Monaro. The car he started it in 1969. First drove the Monaro here.
And he's had 9 fantastic wins with a great variety of co-drivers, including Jimmy Richards, of course, Larry Perkins as well. And it'll be great to see Brocky nail it if he possibly can, but I think we should not underestimate actually how serious this attempt is from Holden to win this race for Brocky.
So let's check how they stand. Brocky up on top, as you can see, just overtaking some other lap traffic. And it is Peter Brock out in front, the 05. Then the 427, the second Monaro of Nathan Pretty, Harvey, Brabham, Morris, Bow, Short, and Elson. Closing in on the completion of the first hour of the Bathurst 24-hour race. We're down to lap 21. Hey, not good news for Lamborghini fans. A punctured rear tyre has broken a brake hose on the Lamborghini. That's in the pits at the moment. But Holden fans will be loving it. There is their man. Brocky is leading the Bathurst 24-hour, the 05 Monaro going beautifully.
From Nathan Pretty, his teammate, then Tim Harvey now in car 24 up to third. But I tell you what, Brocky, 21 laps into the race, has already lapped up to 9th position outright, David Addison. An amazing performance.
He's not too bad for an Australian, is he, this bloke Brock? Here he is, aiming for his perfect 10th win. Down the Conrod Straight he goes once more, heading towards Caltech's chase, and Peter Brock, who sat on the tail of Nathan Pretty for the first handful of laps, has found a way through, and now he's pulling away. The gap is 10.1 seconds between the two Monaros, and Tim Harvey is a man in a hurry in third in the best placed Porsche, the Certec run car. He's not catching the Monaros, but he's breaking away a little bit from those behind him.
The class field of co-drivers yet to step into 05, so we're yet to see, of course, Greg Murphy jump in the car, Jason Bright, Todd Kelly. This is the second place car on the road now, currently driven by Nathan Pretty, who started the race, the car that won this very event last year.
Certainly was, and what a great moment that was for Holden too. Nathan Pretty, who has the honour of taking it out this year, starting things rolling. A star-studded field in there as well. Stephen Richards amongst them, Cameron McConville.
Garth Tander,
who took it across the line last year.
He did, and put it on pole for this year too with a 2:13.2 in qualifying. So Brock is down to within 2 seconds of Tander's qualifying time in the very first 20 laps of this 24-hour race.
But Nathan Pretty goes up Mountain Straight once more. The gap has grown again, in fact, on that lap. It's now 11.5 seconds between the Monaros. Peter Brock just pulling away inexorably now from the 427 car running in second place.
Just Car Insurance, yellow Monaro, 427 cubic inches, 6-speed Hollinger sequential gearbox as we go back to position 3, car 24. This is the Tim Harvey Porsche.
This is the fight for third and for fourth because they're nose to tail. It's Tim Harvey in the Certec Porsche just ahead of David Brabham there with the Ferrari 360, and Brabham has been working his way up the order. Tim Harvey, who missed the first qualifying session altogether, that car had a clutch problem, now has the Ferrari alongside and through into third place. David Brabham goes through as they approach Konica Bend. Well, we said the Porsche was moving up the order, but David Brabham now, after a fairly mediocre start over the first few laps, he's now absolutely flying. He was just playing himself in gradually, and now Brabham is absolutely charging.
And what a superb car, $700,000 Ferrari F360 GT, driven in Nations Cup earlier this year by John Bauer, has been a sensational car. And there's no doubt about it, Brabham, when you look at the co-driver lineup, including Andre Montermini, the ex-Formula 1 champ car driver as well, who will jump into this car later on. You've got Klaus Engelhorn, the European Ferrari Challenge winner, Philippe Pater. This is a classy lineup too.
Absolutely right, and I'm afraid in the pit lane there is a problem for number 60. It's Glenn Hastings at the wheel of the Subaru that's got a flat front right tyre, and there's other work going on as well. I think they were refuelling first of all. There may well have been some spillage there, which is needing to be attended to. But the fight then we saw for third place now has Brabham ahead of Harvey, and David Brabham is lapping quicker, as also is Tim Harvey, than Nathan Pretty. So I just wonder whether now Nathan is in danger of being caught by the flying Brabham.
Let's look at Brabham's times. 2:16.6. This car did a 15 last year, and nothing's really changed to the car in spec form for this year's race. The pole time set by Brad Jones of this car last year, but certainly the car has been totally upgraded in terms of all new endurance equipment in it, built to go the distance.
He doesn't look cool, calmly collected David Brabham coming around the top of Mount Panorama at the moment. Those eyes look very, very relaxed. Taking a drink now, well, he's doing it quite comfortably.
Unfinished business at Mount Panorama, and while Brabham's having a trouble-free run so far, as we go back to Paul Morris in car 54, who's sitting back there in position 5. One of the cars that is having a few problems is that of Alex Young, the Malaysian Formula 1 driver who joins us in commentary. Mate, you should be out there behind the wheel.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. We've had electrical gremlins since yesterday, and the team has been trying to change everything in the car. So we thought we'd had it fixed, but we went out to start the race, and after 2 laps, Jeff had to pull it back in. Still haven't fixed the problem.
Your first time at Mount Panorama?
Yep, it's my first time, and it really is an amazing circuit. You know, it's a good gradient always makes for a great driver's circuit, and you won't see better gradient than here at Mount Panorama.
The BMW 320 you're driving, we thought was fairly bulletproof, given that BMW's endurance spec, that particular car being built by the Searle boys, but you have no idea what the problem is?
Unfortunately, we're starting to run out of ideas a bit. They're still trying things to try and change things and can't get it going. Yeah, normally that car is bulletproof. You know, we've got really good fuel mileage as well, so we thought we'd have been, you know, competitive and reliable for the whole race. So it's, you know, it's just disappointing and frustrating to be sitting here.
And the problem is it won't rev through about 5,000 RPM. Is that the actual problem with the car?
Well, we're still part of the problem. We can get to about 7,000 now, but from 7 to 8.5, it just won't go. And there's no point going around at the moment because it's really slow. So the team just trying to fix it now.
Car 54. Paul Morris behind the wheel, the car that he's going to share with Peter Fitzgerald, and problems too.
That's Tim Harvey, and is that a puncture? Possibly. It just looked to me as though the left rear corner was a bit low. There was smoke. Now, was that mechanical smoke, or was it the tyre fouling against the bodywork? We'll hope to see in a moment, but certainly Tim Harvey, who was lying fourth, has got a problem. He's now slipping down the field. Paul Morris goes fourth, but Tim Harvey's car has a problem. The Certec Porsche coming across the top of Mount Panorama, losing places, and there Paul Morris being held up a little bit in the traffic.
We always thought that this car would be quick, David. There's no question about that. Oh, problems too on the Hankook replay. Problem there for Martin Short in the Mosley, got caught up in some traffic.
That's right, and just running over the curb and onto the grass, getting away with it. But of course, that's something that can help create these punctures. On board, though, with 420, John Bow at the wheel. He will gain a place, of course, from the troubled Tim Harvey.
Great shots from the Maguires on board of this superb BMW GTR V8. Have you had much to do with this sort of BMW before, Alex? Just a superb car, isn't it?
No, I'd love to, though.
Let's have a listen to John Bowers' BMW as he rocks down Conrod Straight. Down under the Dunlop Bridge. Hard on the brakes now, coming down into VIP Pet Foods turn. Bow back through the gears, second gear now. Reading the track beautifully. Up under the overpass. Pulls fourth gear. John Bow looking good, and again you can see problems with car 24.
Yeah, and it was a puncture, I was right. So another car with a punctured tyre. The Lamborghini, by the way, that we know had a puncture earlier, has gone back out again, 5 laps down. Well, whereas Paul Stoker was nearly at the end of the lap, Tim Harvey's got him in virtually the whole way around the mountain.
Tim Harvey behind the wheel at the moment, the 911 GT3 RSG. I tell you what, Surtec have come to the mountain. They were butchered last year after leading the race for 19 laps, and not a great start of this year's race either, David.
Yeah, Rob Charles upset somebody on high, hasn't he, when he comes to Mount Panorama, because again, one of his cars has a problem, and Tim Harvey limping it back. But of course, he's got so many miles to do on effectively 3 good wheels that the risk is that's going to do damage. We saw it at the top of the mountain, and Tim Harvey now crawling his way back towards the completion of the lap, back to the pit lane. And this is going to drop the car down the order.
Must be very, very frustrating from a driver's point of view, Alex, so early into a 24-hour race, 24 laps as a matter of fact, to have this happen to you.
Yeah, but I think, you know, if it was a sprint race, we'd be boiling in there. But, you know, as you said, it's a 24-hour race. I think everyone's playing it quite cool. There's so long to go and so much can happen, you know.
Well, now 23 hours. This is the second ever 24-hour endurance race live from Mount Panorama, Bathurst, and it's presented by Formula Green and Eagle Boys. We can hear on the radio trying to limp this car back to the pits. David Brabham led the Surtec team for so long last year in the car that he shared with Alan Grice, Darren Palmer.
All 4 tyres, Tim. All 4 tyres.
Here from the team manager that all 4 tyres are going to be changed.
Yeah, they can't take the risk, can they, if one tyre has been damaged?
There's a piece of plastic debris on the Conrod Straight just before the chase.
So Tim Harvey telling the team, debris on the track. Although this particular problem we spotted first at the top of the mountain.
Yeah, that's right, but it's of course now a major concern to the quicker cars that there's this debris lying around, and as the race goes on they're going to have to go offline to do the lappering. This is just another of the many challenges that make up the Bathurst 24 hours, Craig.
And of course the uniqueness of a 24-hour event. Alex, you've ever done a 24-hour race before?
No, I've done a 12-hour race though, you know, so this is my first 24-hour race, and hopefully I'll get back out there, you know, because I want to be part of it and experiencing it.
What did you do the 12-hour race in?
That was a local race in Malaysia. It was a Merdeka Millennium race, and I did it in a TVR one year, and I did it in a Porsche the other year. And you know, racing at night is just so much fun, and I think going over the hill at night would be something special.
And you'll just watch out for those big Aussie kangaroos, won't you? Yeah. We actually had one on track today. In fact, in the 2-hour GDP Showroom Showdown, which was a support race, we certainly had a reel on the track. Back down to the pits now, and Andrew Marriott.
Yes, well, the Surtec Porsche has come in with Tim Harvey at the wheel. Obviously, they're going to have to watch out for the same thing as the Lamborghini to check that there isn't a problem with a damaged brake pipe. I thought Tim was going to get into the car because Horman Tilk was all suited and booted and ready to get in the car, but I think the team have decided to leave Tim in it, and they're going to change all 4 tyres. Rob Shirl is the team manager down here. He's calm. He's been running many of these long-distance races in the past. There you see the wheel come off, absolutely in tatters, that tyre. And I don't think I shall be able to get in amongst these guys to get a word with Tim, but he was doing a fantastic job. Just see the mechanics there, checking the mechanics who are actually based at the Little Mallory Park circuit in Leicestershire. That's where this team actually comes from. And of course, they've also been running a Ferrari this year.
Well, 25 laps into the Bathurst 24-hour endurance race. Peter Brock continues to lead in 05 from his teammate Nathan Pretty in car 27. David Brabham in the Ferrari, now moving into the top 3, of course, in car 48. Well, Alex, we certainly hope you fix the problems. We'd like to see you do some competitive laps around Mount Panorama and certainly enjoy the rest of the weekend anyhow.
Yep, me too. Thanks very much. Enjoyed being here.
So, folks, as Peter Brock works his way up the mountain one more time here at Mount Panorama, it's Nathan Pretty who's well back, in fact 16 seconds behind, trying to chase him down. Then Brabham's Ferrari, Morris in the Porsche, John Bow in the BMW, Martin Short in the Mosler. Back shortly here at Mount Panorama.
It is back out there, but it is Brocky in the Monaro, the man to catch.
And 12 seconds too ahead of the rest of the field, as you can see. Brock leading from Pretty, then Brabham in the Ferrari, Paul Morris in the Porsche back there in car 54, John Bow, the BMW M3 GDR V8 from Martin Short in the Mosler MT 900R, Olsen, the German Porsche, the 996 GT3 S Cup car, Tony Quinn, first of the locals in the VIP Pet Foods car, running second in Class B at the moment.
Behind in 9th place at the moment is the Porsche in the hands of Rod Wilson. And Tim Harvey, after a punctured tyre, he was 3rd. He's dropped to 10th. 11th, Paul Freestone with his Porsche. In 12th place, Theo Kondoris Ferrari. And Rick Shaw, 13th in the Z3M Coupe. In 14th place is the Williams Holden. 15th is Linton's BMW.
Further back in the field, we've got Brooks in Class F, the Invitational class. Gary Holt in the GT Performance class. Peter Floyd's Porsche well down as well after problems. Then Gillespie, Phillip, Brett Yulden further back in the field. Then Loadsman's Commodore.
And let's make mention of the wonderful sounding car in 31st place. It's the Alfa Romeo 156 GTA of Andrew Leithhead, and it's getting quicker all the time.
Big field, as you can see, for the Bathurst 24-hour endurance race, and a superb range of cars too, including the Falcon GT, Mitsubishi Mirage, Honda Integra Type Rs. This is a true class race, not just for outright victory, but of course the 5 classes that make up this tremendous field. As Brocky now has a 12-second gap on his teammate Nathan Pretty through the Caltex Haviland Chase, weaving and working his way through the traffic.
Gentlemen, I've just come back from down in pit lane and behind the pits, talking with a few of the teams and getting their thoughts on what this weather is going to do out to the west of Mount Panorama at the moment. There is a huge front making its way down towards Mount Panorama as we watch car number 91, a D-class competitor making its way down the hill. Rubus at the helm of that car and travelling very slowly, David.
With a punctured tyre, yet another car with a puncture. And remember, that's already been in once for a longish stop when it stalled in the pit lane. So it's really been a pretty bad start to the race for this team.
Quite amazing as he gets out onto the grass to try and obviously keep as much of the rubber on the track as you possibly can. But as he tries to work his way back into the pits, you can see out there in particularly the western, northwestern areas of Mount Panorama, that rain front, inch by inch, moving closer to the mountain, and looks like we haven't seen what we've seen certainly over the last day or two here.
Well, that's the bad news, but the good news, David, is those that are worried about punches, the track is about to be washed.
Oh, that's true, yes. I was just thinking, I'm in the wrong place for a holiday. There is another car in trouble. It's one of the BMWs.
Car 40 is going in at the Donut King.
Is Robert Brooks, the auctioneer, and he's done a lot of damage to the front of it.
Just hear him talking to the team at the moment. This may well be a safety car situation, I'd suggest, where the car is on the track at the moment. You can see that he's crunched the right-hand front guard and suspension quite hard.
Yeah. I was looking for a wheel and I can't see it, and that's pretty bad news, although it's been pushed into the bodywork. That looks like quite a big impact to me. Going, gone for the auctioneer.
Yeah, thick and fast. There's no question about that in terms of the number of tyre failures we've had so early in this race, particularly a 24-hour race. This is the first incident. We saw Paul Stokel's Lamborghini run off, of course, at the Caltex Haviland Chase. The Holden safety car on standby. No call for it as yet.
And Robert Brooks getting out of the car. Well, that's the Duller Motorsport BMW. Remember how well Duller went last year. What a contrast. Here we are, just over an hour gone. And Robert Brooks, the RDC member, clambers out of the car and will now, with a bit of help from the marshals,
yes,
balletically leap onto the wall.
Drove very, very well last year with Duller Motorsport. They had a great time. Car's off the racing line, but one would suggest that official can't afford to leave it there. They'll have to try and tow it out of there.
Look at the marks on the road as though he's hit the wall on both sides.
Let's have a look at the replay. Oh, we got caught up with the VIP Pet Foods Porsche of Tony Quinn at the wheel. Crunched the BMW against the wall, and that's what's caused all the damage.
Well, there it sits. Is the safety car going to be out on track? Yes, our timing screen has got a yellow band on it. That means the safety car will be out on the circuit, and the reason is pretty obvious, because Brooks's car has got a lot of damage. It sits by the side of the road, and that needs removing.
Well, joining us also in commentary, a man that's driving a very, very spectacular car this weekend. In fact, it's running third outright at the moment in the hands of David Brabham. Danish driver Alan Simonson as one of the Just Cars Insurance Holden. In fact, it's Brock who's into the pits at the moment. Brock has come in. Let's go down to Grant.
Yeah, well, Greg Murphy's taken the opportunity to come at the car. Now, this is typical Gary Rogers type theory, because this is what they do in V8 supercars. They really make the most of these safety car periods. Anticipated that this car was going to bring out a safety car and has made the most of pitting at the right time. So Brock out, Murphy in, a 4-tyre pit stop and no other problems. A top-up of water also.
Perfect timing, right on the pit window. 30 laps down and a safety car period. Brocky couldn't have called it better, David.
This is how you win 24-hour races. You've got to be on the top of your game, not just on the track, but knowing exactly what's going to happen strategy-wise in terms of pit stops.
Alan Simonson, sorry, mate, I had you in a Ferrari a moment ago. It's actually the Lamborghini of Paul Stokels. Safety car is being deployed now. but problems with the Paul Stokell car, the brake line, all sorted out now, Alan?
It's all sorted out. Yeah, we had a blowout coming down Conrad Straight, and very lucky and very good driving from Paul Stokell. He saved it and he got it back into the pits. The boys did a great job to see that it was a cracked brake line as well. And they got it all sorted quick and we're out there again.
Fuel on the dash, does it? I've held it last for about 3 seconds.
And here the team on the radio.
And that's what should happen, but let me look further into it.
To Brocky at the moment as Murph jumps into the car. Safety car on the track at the moment. But Alan, how many laps did you lose? Did you lose much time?
I think we lost about 3 or 4 laps there. So, but it's a long race. It's a long race, and you know we'll catch up.
Murph, you most probably won't get reset fuel on the dash.
There's the instructions going through to Brett Murphy. Behind the wheel of the Monaro, making its way up the mountain. Safety car out on the circuit. 30 laps completed here in the Bathurst 24-hour, brought to you by Formula Green and Eagle Boys.
We'll be back shortly for the Bathurst 24-hour endurance race live from Mount Panorama. Welcome back, folks, to Mount Panorama for the 24-hour endurance race. Into its second hour, 31 laps down. And problems, as you can see, for the Robert Brooks BMW, which has caused a safety car period. And this is why. This is Tony Quinn, the VIP Pet Foods Porsche, and Brooks coming up towards the Donut King cutting. And you can see that the two cars just lightly touch, which of course sends the BMW hard offline and crunch hard into the wall.
And a lot of damage then to the front right corner of that BMW. It sits by the side of the road. That's why the safety car is out. And if that car can rejoin, it's going to rejoin on Tuesday. It's going to be a long, long stop, isn't it, to repair that damage?
Absolutely.
And another continuation of some of the problems we've seen here today. More debris put out onto the track. A lot of parts from the BMW floated across the track, and you can see them just at the bottom of your screen at the moment, some of the white dots. So that might come into play a little bit later on in the evening as well. That's what it's like on board the VIP Pet Foods Porsche. You can see how dark the sky is getting. Rain is on its way to Mount Panorama.
Absolutely. A car that they had a clutch failure in last night, ran out of fuel in the first qualifying session, out of praying in the first hour of the race. So let's hope the weekend gets better for the VIP Pet Foods team.
But the danger is, of course, that that car may have some latent damage as a consequence of that impact.
And of course, that's all the unknown factors that come into a 24-hour situation, David. You're absolutely right. What damage has been done? It looked like a fairly light kiss, actually, and it more looked like Brooks actually moved over and then maybe got on the rubble and crunched the wall. It wasn't actually a severe tag. It didn't look like it, but nevertheless, Brooks has paid the penalty, and let's hope the VIP Sunrise car continues to shine throughout the night.
Oh, very good. No sunrise, no sunshine at the moment at Mount Panorama, but Tony Quinn, he would have a big smile on his face. He's leading Class B at the moment quite comfortably.
Alan, your car 20, the Stokell Lamborghini, back there in 20th spot at the moment. Have you done many laps in the car?
Yeah, we sort of gone through, all of us, to do about 10-15 laps during yesterday, and I did the warm-up this morning in the absolutely dreadful rain. So yeah, I know what the guys are going to feel like if it does come down, because with the slower cars, it's really hard to see, and going up through the long straights and with all the steam coming up, you really have to concentrate a lot before you overtake them.
We talked a lot about the potential of a pole time for the Lamborghini here around Mount Panorama. I mean, do you think it's got the speed to run with the Monaros?
It's definitely got the speed. The problem we had was that it was sort of a late decision for us to join the race, and the cars have been working so hard on the car all up to the race, so we didn't have time to do a shakedown, and basically that cost us the first practice, where we had a lot of problems and didn't put the quick time in.
Alan, for those of us, and there's 3 of us sitting here in actual fact, that'll never get the chance to drive a Lamborghini. What do they like to drive, particularly around a circuit like this?
Oh, the Lamborghini is very similar to the Ferrari in the way it handles. You know, it's got centre engine, rear-wheel drive, and a lot of power. But it's an amazing car to drive. I drove the supercar here two months ago, and it's definitely handling a lot better than a supercar, but it hasn't got as much torque. But it's an amazing car, and very, very, a lot of grip, almost like a single-seater in some ways. But yeah, it's an amazing car.
Alan, you've set racing fans alight in Australia this year with your performances, particularly in Group 2 of Nations Cup in the Ferrari. Mark Coffey putting a deal together with you to hopefully see you next year full-time here in Australia?
Yeah, Mark Coffey has been working so hard for me all year, and you know, I'm really pleased with what we have achieved this year. we're working on a 550 Ferrari for next year. It's a Group 1 car, and we might be going to Italy in 2 or 3 weeks to have a look at one and bring it down.
Fantastic. Down to Grant.
Well, the Monaro's has been handed over to Patrick Pearce. Now, I've got to ask you, Martin Short, you did drop back a couple of positions in that stint. Is that anything to be concerned about, or was it just playing the game so far?
I wish I was in the Monaro at some times.
Oh,
but...
sorry, the Mosler. Yeah. There's a Freudian slip for you.
Yeah.
Your arch enemy.
Yeah. I played with them for a couple of laps and really enjoyed that, but sort of settled back into a rhythm, and I didn't want to take any chances, particularly up through the mountain, and we just sort of settled down to a steady pace around 20s, got down to 18s, and just settled down. We let a couple of guys through. They were much quicker through the twisty stuff, or certainly quicker than I wanted to be, and I was quicker up the straight, so it's just easier just to let them through and let them do what they wanted to do. You know, it's a long way to go.
You waved them past, but you did say that you can potentially outbrake the Monaros. It's very good under brakes, and a car as a package, can you go any quicker than the 18s without sort of really chewing into the resources of the car?
You know, I think we will start chewing into resources, and a disc change for us is pretty heavy going. The design, unfortunately, limits us, and it takes about 20 minutes to change this, which is bad news. So I just started looking after the brakes. It was good to be behind the Monaros and see, hey, I can take, you know, like 5, 6, 7 car lengths out of these guys, and I was enjoying it, but I thought, no, don't be stupid, it's going to cost you in the end.
Well, Martin, pull on the wellies. It's starting to rain down here at pit lane, guys.
It is. It's getting wet now.
Take a deep breath.
Thank you.
Well, Nathan Pretty, it is starting to rain. What's that mean to the Monaros?
Look, it's no problem. Like the tyres this morning that we ran on in the wet, it's the first couple of laps we've ever done in the wet with the Monaro. So, look, it felt fantastic. The tyres feel really good. So I'm sure with Richo in our car now, we won't have any problems at all.
You had a good stint, but Brocky overtook you.
Yeah, look, I mean, we've got a race plan, our team, and I just stuck to it lap after lap. So, you know, if they want to do that, that's fine. They're on a different strategy, no problem at all. You know, we're just going to stick to ours lap by lap, and should all pan out very well.
And hope you can put back-to-back victories together.
That's the plan.
Nathan, thanks very much. I think we'll have a lot of cars in here very soon, guys. I'll just also tell you quickly, the Morgan had a split hose. That's what the problem with that was. And the Tim Harvey car was in for a long time because when the tyre actually delaminated, it took out a body stay. So that's why they lost a couple of laps.
Well, the rain really starting to come down here in pit lane at the moment, and motorsport brings out all sorts of enthusiasts, and our own John Alexander, tennis great, is no exception. J.A., you enjoying the weekend here at Mount Panorama?
Oh yeah, this is just a fantastic weekend. To me, this is a combination of a great track, the ultimate test. I think it's like 5 advantage sets with no break, and a variety of cars that we don't often see in Australia. It's a chance for Australians to sort of play against the world's best.
Now, we know you're a mad motorsport fan. You've had Ferraris in the garage before. You've been around Mount Panorama before. Tell us about that. What was it like?
Well, it's one of the great tracks in the world, and it's just a very, very, very tricky track, especially when you get up the top. And if there's any rain, it's a scary place to go around at moderate paces. I can't imagine what it's like to race around here.
And in the darkness as well tonight. Now, I've got to ask you, J.A., about the Davis Cup next weekend. Are we confident in the Australian camp?
We've got a good track.
Good.
Oh, we've got a couple of big engines going.
No rain.
And the rain, we've got a roof to cover the rain. But look, I looked at the court. The court looks magnificent. Murray McFarlane's been looking after it. Has done a wonderful job. The Spanish guys are improving on grass. Moya can play on grass. He's had some reasonably good results. Ferrero got to the round of 16 at Wimbledon this past year. But our boys come with some real pedigree on grass. Won a Wimbledon champion. Mark, a runner-up this year. In fact, Mark comes in as the #1 Australian ahead of Leighton, and I think he has more fear. The Spanish have more fear of Mark than Leighton at this moment.
J.A., just very quickly, got to get your tip tonight. Wallabies in England, who do you like?
Australia to win.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us, J.A., and we'll see you over the course of the next 24 hours.
Good, Mark.
Thanks very much. Well, it is really bucketing down here in pit lane at the moment, as you can see, and that has slowed things up. We're still under yellow flag. It is the 2 Monaros out in front at the moment, Pretty and Brock from Pitter.
Lightning and thunder on the mountain again here at Mount Panorama. We saw it yesterday for 2 qualifying sessions, again this morning. A dry start to the Bathurst 24-hour endurance race, but now the heavens have yet again opened up as Steve Williams in the Chroma. Car 59, the Chroma exhaust car, turns it around, and you can see all these cars that are now filing their way back into pit lane under safety car to change from wet to dry tyres, or I should say from dry to wet tyres. We saw Brock come in first of the cars under safety car, right on lap 30, the race leader, and he, of course, David Anderson, has really handed the race lead to Stephen Richards in car 427.
That's right, it's a Monaro 1-2, but all that's going to be thrown into the air now as people have to decide when to come in for these wet tyres, or indeed gamble on whether it's a passing shower and how quick the track will dry out. But pretty much everybody now coming in for wet. So you can see off come the slicks from the Morgan, a wet Dunlop's going on.
We haven't talked much about the Morgan. Tell us about this car. We saw it briefly, but it's really quite exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it runs in GT Cup in the British GT Championship. This particular car finished third in the Spa 1,000 kilometres. He's got a 4.6 litre BMW engine in it. It makes a great sound, this Morgan. Still, some of its construction is wood, and there you can see the activity going on in the pit lane. Behind it is the Mosler. Martin Short has got out of that car. It's back in for wet tyres. And just look at this. It's like a who's who of the motor industry. You've got Mosler, Ferrari, further down the pit lane, Holden, and Lamborghini back in, of course. And it's not a problem it's in for this time. It's just to go from slicks to wets.
I mean, it's really quite amazing. They tell me that the Morgan is made of aluminium and wood. You have no problems with rust, but the termites give you hell.
Well, it's sitting in the same garage as the Mosler. I had the chance to sit in the Mosler. What an incredible machine. It's like an open wheeler with a roof on it. I know that sounds strange, but the attitude of sitting in the car, the sequential gearbox, the way you position yourself, and quite, David, surprisingly, a comfortable car to sit in.
Yeah, that's right, although industrial injury could be a complaint from the drivers, given that they're cocooned in this monster with all the noise being thrown at them. Yeah.
Well, Alan, we hope your fortune improves for, obviously, Team Lamborghini for the rest of the race. A great start for Paul Stokell, plenty of pace until, of course, that rear tyre failure. It is a 24-hour race. Anything can happen, as we saw last year, so let's hope things improve for your team.
Thank you very much.
Well done. Very, very heavy rain on Mount Panorama, as you can see.
Yes, that is what we don't want to see here this weekend. A bit of rain coming into the mix. That sort of opens things up a little bit, but that amount of rain is going to put a hold on proceedings in the second running of the Bathurst 24-hour.
You might not want to see that sort of weather, but I bet you Uwe Altsson and his brother Jürgen are over the moon about it, because this now are the sort of conditions that will play into the hands of those cars that have got a better traction to power ratio, and the car in 8th place, number 6 Uwe Altsson. It's a lap adrift of the marvellous Monaros, but in these weather conditions I reckon it's going to have a bit of a chance now to get back up the order.
John Bauer doing a double stint in the BMW M3 GTR as he wheels out of pit lane now. They changed a windscreen in this car, would you believe, 20 minutes before the start of the race. They actually found a crack and they weren't prepared to take the risk. The screen came out and a brand new one came in.
There's a car that should be very, very strong this weekend. The Peter Boyland, Rick Bates entry. Jeff Morgan got out of that car after doing the nighttime qualifying session, and he had tears coming down out of his eyes, rolling down his face. I said, what's wrong? He said, they made me come in and get out of it. I said, is it that good? He said, it's fantastic out there. I love this car. I feel like I'm just cruising around enjoying myself. It's like a Sunday drive to me. I want to get back in it.
Well, this car had a great run last year. 6th outright, first in class. It's been quickest in its class in qualifying in the hands of Rick Bates this weekend. It'll be certainly a car well and truly watching in this race. Alan Heafy, the team manager for AA Motorsport, in previous race meetings, is now crewing this car for the weekend. Effectively the same team as last year, except their chief mechanic, John Rees, whose wife Melissa is giving birth to a baby this weekend in Melbourne.
On board the Gary Rogers Motorsport car, the 05 being driven by Greg Murphy. There's Greg behind the wheel of the car, looking at the revision mirrors at the moment. Now, apparently he's out there on slicks at the moment. They couldn't get the car in and change over to wet weather tyres, so he's obviously treading very, very carefully across the top of the mountain. This is heart-in-your-mouth stuff for Greg Murphy. He won here not all that long ago. Can he do it this weekend? Well, he needs to get very slowly down. I'm thinking back just to about 10, 11 years ago. Craig Denny here at Mount Panorama.
What is it about Mount Panorama that throws up all these factors in the air? But we believe Murphy couldn't change to wets before because the Brock car was in the pits and is now forced to really tippy-toe around down Mount Panorama at the moment. Well, John Alexander, the score at the moment, 40 love in favour of Holden.
Yes, actually, Peter Brock's mum was a very, very successful tennis player, Victorian champion in her day. And what a terrible sight, isn't it? But nobody probably more experienced in the rain and at Bathurst than Peter. Very, very good in the wet also.
Down to Grant.
Well, Tony Quinn, you were going so well, but I think you got out of the car just a touch too early. A couple of more laps and you would have been able to come in and change drivers and go to the wets, and it would have been the ideal strategy.
Yes, it would have been, but I mean, you can't, you know, it's another 23 hours or whatever it is.
And, you know,
damn, is it?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's really hard work out there. It really is. For an old fella. It's really...
Talk us through the incident with the BMW.
It's just, you know, like, that's what I mean, it's hard work. Unfortunately, the speed of different cars is just immense. And the guys just don't see you. And I thought, those guys are pretty good. And he moved, you know, there was plenty of room, but he just came over. But no problem, for me anyway.
It was talked that this year the pace of the race will be a lot higher. Do you think that the aggression amongst the drivers and car-to-car accidents will be a little bit higher too this year?
I think definitely the pace is a lot tougher, it's a lot stronger to start with anyway. It'll soon die down a bit, I think, and people will be on their hands and knees praying for the other guy to have an accident or breakdown or whatever. But it's hard work out there.
It's finally, as the thunder cracks over our heads, Marcus is still out there on slick tyres. I don't know how he can even drive.
Yeah, no, they'll be all right on slicks in the safety car. But I think he's coming in fairly soon.
Good luck with the rest of it.
Thank you.
Big problems for Greg Murphy, the back of the car stepping out. The Monaro very, very loose as he comes down into pit lane. These dramas aren't over yet. He has to go through the left-hander, uses the ripple strip, tries to straight line it. Oh, was almost all over.
Yeah, sheets of water over the track too, so one would suggest we might be under safety car for quite some time as Murphy, in 05, the car that led the race in the hands of his teammate Peter Brock, brings it back into the pits for a quick change to wet weather tyres. Andrew.
Yes, exactly as you called it. The wet weathers are going on. He's made it back, so that drama is over. The car looks absolutely immaculate, and this crew is really working very well. They're only allowed to have 2 men actually on the wheel changing, and that's exactly what they've got down here. And all 4 on, and the air hose comes off. It drops off the jack, and it is away. And that pit stop was only about 30 seconds.
He may have set a stunning pole position lap for the 1,000 Ks, but that, I reckon, was the longest and slowest lap round here he must ever have endured.
Well, he had a 5-minute holiday on the pits a couple of years ago. I reckon that was pretty long on his mind too.
Took Australia's best-known bathroom break, if you like, but now he's just being told by the team, don't forget you're on cold tyres, and by now the brakes discs, the rotors would have cooled down, so just be wary of that when you come back out onto the circuit. He won't be putting on too much pace. The safety car still out on the track, 35 laps completed.
Well, John Alexander, I guess they can't put the covers over the court, can they? They've really got to live with it. We'll be back shortly, folks, to Mount Panorama, of course, as the rain comes down. This is the 24-hour endurance race, and you're watching it live right around Australia.
Well, we started the Bathurst 24-hour race this afternoon in gorgeous sunshine. That's not how it is at the moment, as you can well see. The mountain is virtually washing away in front of our eyes. Hopefully there'll be something left for tomorrow morning. We have 23 hours of racing still to go. And as you can see, it is bucketing down at the moment. Rivers of water running down Mount Panorama. And as a result, the race is under yellow flag. The safety car is out. The headlights are on. The wet tyres have been fitted. And they will stay that way until this rain eases a little, which hopefully won't be too far away. Well, our major sponsor here is Formula Green, which is a magnificent concept. Very hard to explain to our international friends that we're in drought at the moment in Australia when they come to Mount Panorama and take a look today. It has been bucketing down, and along with it has been some thunder and lightning. It's been very, very frightening, in fact. And that means for our cameramen that up in the scaffolds on the top of the mountain, they have to stand down for a short time because obviously that lightning on scaffold is just not a very good combination. So the car's under safety car at the moment. Lights are on, wet tyres are fitted. And don't forget, throughout tonight, we'll be bringing you up to date with what's happening in the 24-hour race. We'll have live updates at 10:30 tonight, 11:30. And then we come back live to Mount Panorama after the Rugby World Cup has wound up at 12:30 a.m. for an hour, live from the mountain. Should be spectacular action. Well,
Whoa.
Some dramas already.
Car 26 has got problems halfway up Mountain Straight by the look of it. So don't know what's happened there, but under safety car, you'd imagine it hasn't been too much of an incident. Probably just some kind of fundamental failure with the car.
It looks like Ian Mitchell, who started the car, getting out of it.
Let's go to Grant.
Well, Heather, you're from the Gold Coast. You'd be used to this, wouldn't you?
Not very often, but when it does rain up there, it does rain like this.
This is torrential. Look at the conditions through pit lane here. I kid you not, it's It is. It's a puddle. It's a one massive puddle.
Yeah, it's a sensible move. I believe they're going to stop the cars on the pit lane straight. It is a sensible move. There's a lot of dollars worth of machinery out there, and it's silly to try and drive in these conditions.
You're one of only 2 females in this race, and you've driven plenty of times as well, being the 2-time world's fastest woman on water. Yeah. This is kind of your conditions, though.
You'd think so, but I'm not envious of them out there at the moment. I think I'd much rather stay here in the warm this time. I didn't get wet last time I did the speed record on the water.
To make it worse, though, guys, the Moser has just had a problem. In fact, the windscreen wiper was not working, so they had to bring the car in and make an adjustment to that. Can you imagine driving around the conditions, not only this amount of water on this mountain, but with no windscreen wiper?
No, it would be terrible. The faster you go, the better it gets, of course, but it would be terrible at the moment out there.
Are you loving the opportunity, though, to be here at the mountain for the Bathurst 24-hour race? It's one of the world's greats, you'd have to agree.
It is. It would be the best GT race in the world, you know, for this class of car, because there's nothing faster out there, whereas all the other 24-hour races, there's faster cars. So it's an opportunity I never thought I'd have, and it's one I'm really appreciative of. I have to thank Martin Short and the Roll Centre team for the opportunity.
I tell you what, I think you're in the right car too, just quietly.
Yeah, it's a dark horse, but it's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah. Martin was talking about how the car at the moment is quite stiff, so in these conditions, it might be struggling a little bit more than the rest of the cars, like the Monaros and the Porsches.
Yeah, it does have quite a good aerodynamic package on it, but what it does is on the water level of this deep, it can actually float across the water, and it can actually aquaplane more quickly than the other cars. So Patrick is going to have to be very careful out there at the moment.
Will we see any water speed records from you today, Heather, when you get in the car?
I'll do as I'm told. If they want one, I'll try, but I'll do as I'm told.
That's the best way to be invited back.
Yeah, for sure.
Enjoy your day. Great to talk to you.
Thank you very much. Good luck for yourself when you get out there too.
Yeah, thanks. Look at it, will you?
Yeah, I know.
Heather Spurl, twice world water speed champion, and just coming back from a bout of ovarian cancer. She's been through chemotherapy, radiotherapy. What a brave move to go to England, be fit enough to test in this car, and of course tackle this sensational 24-hour race.
Yeah, I'm sure as soon as the weather clears, she'll be looking forward to getting out there too. The water's still flowing down the track, as you can see. The rain is torrential at the moment. We've got thunder and lightning. And all in all, not a very pleasant time to be at Mount Panorama.
Just been advised by race control, they're actually going to stop the safety car on pit straight and bring the field to a halt. So bad are the conditions here at the moment. It's really quite amazing, David, when you think about it. The worst drought in 100 years in New South Wales, which proves one thing. The Poms will do anything to try and win a Rugby World Cup final.
Well, as far as the motor race is concerned, this I've never seen the cars being held on the track like this. And down in the pit lane, drowning in all of this, is the redoubtable Andrew Marriott.
I'm trying to keep out of the rain, David. I've got Klaus Engelhorn with me. I'm obviously from Austria. I have a bit of rain. The right decision to stop the race here?
Yes, definitely I think so. It's a security issue. If there's too much water on the track, it's simply too dangerous to run 290 kilometers per hour, even with rain tires, when there is a sea on the track. So I'm glad that they are stopping, because the clouds will go and then we can continue, and safe and nice.
You've got a great team of drivers in your car, and a big Austrian friend of yours, of course, won the Sebring 12 Hours, Philip Peter. I think he's been your coach.
Yes, he taught me my first lessons in racing in Fiorano in Italy, near Maranello. And I'm very glad that he's here, also on Germany, and of course David Brabham, who is a local hero. So I think we have a very good team, and if the Ferrari doesn't make any trouble, we have a good chance to finish pretty much in front.
Now, you should explain, your 360 isn't quite state-of-the-art, is it? Because you don't have the latest sequential shift in it.
That's right. We have the pedal shifting, which is called the F1 shifting. And I think in the long run, this is a very reliable way, because we don't know if the sequential gearbox could stand the pressure, but in the future it will.
And let's remind people that a Ferrari like yours finished second at Daytona, David.
Wow, that's good news. I hope we will have a similar result here.
Yeah, David Allison.
Yeah, that's right, Andrew. Back at the start of the year, Ferrari was in fine form in the Daytona 24 Hours. BMW, though, not in fine form, I'm afraid. They're 26, being craned onto the Racker track.
We talk about this event being a class event. Folks, just to give you an idea of the sort of cars that are in the sort of classes. Class A is the outright class, which features the two-car Monaro team, which are leading the race at the moment. Lamborghini, Ferrari 360 GT in there as well. The BMW M3 GTR, the Porsche 911 GT3 and the Mosler MT 900R. Then you go back to Class B and you'll see the numbers, or the letters I should say, A, B, D, E and F, alongside all the timing updates, and that of course refers to this class. Class B, Nations Cup Group 2, Porsche GT3 Carrera Cup cars in there, the Ferrari 360 Challenge, which is a down-spec model of the 360 GT that's running in the outright class, the Morgan Aero 8, Class D, the Australian GT Performance Championship cars, under about $160,000. These are road-going production cars. Cars like the BMW M3, the HSV GTS, the Falcon GT, Mitsubishi Lancer, Subaru WRX, Nissan and so on. Then we go to Class E for Australian production cars under $90,000. The baby cars, the sports touring cars, Toyota Celica, Ford XR6 Turbo, Honda Integra Type R, Alfa Romeo 156, the standard Holden Commodore 5.7 litre SS. And then Class F is for FIA Group N, FIA Super Production and invited cars. Cars in there like the BMW M3R, which was a bit of a hybrid built here in Australia by Frank Gardner and Ralph Bellamy. I think only 10 or 12 cars were ever built. Toyota Altezza, which is the locally made Lexus IS200, but with a bigger engine, only sold effectively as an Altezza in Japan and New Zealand. Mitsubishi Mirage, BMW 320i Super Tourer, again the Alfa Romeo 156 Super Tourer, and the Commodore. So that gives you an idea of the different classes and the cars that make up this fantastic 24-hour endurance race. Again, Mark, as we at least are under safety car conditions and rolling again.
Yeah, good news, and hopefully that rain is going to ease. It did come down pretty heavily before, but from what we saw before, it can only back off.
That shows you just how bad the weather is. The whole purpose of having the safety car is so that the race can carry on, albeit under these controlled conditions. Well, the safety car, first of all, had to back off to around 40 kph because it was so wet, and then have to stop on the grid for a few minutes. That just underlines how bad the weather is.
I got Neil Crompton asleep here, and I'd just like to play off the commentator, so shall we wake him up or not? Can you see my picture?
Well,
Andrew's up to no good down there in the pits.
Playing funny business in the pits at the moment, no question about that.
Hello.
And there's Cromley.
The unmistakable picture of Neil Crompton dozing off.
So Cromley looking forward to his first competitive drive pretty much this season, actually. Yeah. And you can see how motivated he is about it.
Yeah, drivers do it all differently, don't they? Some are pacing up and down like caged lions, and some are like Neil Crompton, doing not much.
So it's still a Holden 1-2. Well, in fact, it's not a Holden 1-2 at the moment. It's still Stephen Richards in 427, but the David Brabham Ferrari, car 48, has moved into second out right now. In fact, Fitzgerald has now moved into third spot in car 54. That's the car he's sharing with Paul Morris, and the Murphy Brock 05 Monaro back now to position 4. As John Alexander leaves us just for a moment, we'll call.
I'm sitting here with you guys and not out there.
Mate, this Ferrari of yours is showing a bit of pace.
Yeah, I mean, it got up to a good pace. I think I got down to like 16s and running 18s in traffic. And, yeah, the more now I kind of feel like I'm part of the car. Didn't really know it before I got here. And, yeah, the car was flying around. We caught all the Porsches past them. And, you know, the car was running pretty good. The car's very good in the wet. So, you know, these conditions, I think, will suit us.
Ferrari, particularly the PHR Scuderia team, came here last year pretty underdone and got caught out with 2 engine failures in effectively 4 hours of racing. This car, the 360 GT, the same car that John Bowe drove last year, no problems. It's been fully prepped, I believe, for this endurance race, 24 hours.
We're a bit slower on the straight, I think. Yeah, I think the engine's been a little bit detuned. But yeah, I mean, it's probably in a little bit better shape than it was when it was last year, and it's going well.
Wake up, Cromley. Back to Grant Denyer in the pits.
There's not too many places where you can actually escape the rain. And if there is, well, Cameron McConville will be there, won't you, mate? It's just, you've taken refuge in the Monaro truck at the moment because it's just horrible outside.
Well, mate, we've had the air conditioner on all week and we've actually turned it off and nearly got the heater cranked on up the front there. So this is crazy. I mean, it's really wise to bring out the safety car because it's very dangerous. I mean, the cars were just aquaplane. You know, no wet weather tyre at 200k now is going to disperse that amount of water. So I think they've done the right thing at the moment.
The purpose of me coming to actually have a chat to you was to really enlighten the audience about the physical requirements of a race like this. Now, Cam is actually one of the fittest blokes, in fact, the fittest bloke in the field. Now, has that been measured? Like, how can you actually explain that in number terms?
Well, I haven't, tested every driver in the field, so I'm not sure if I am the fittest, but we recently had a couple of fellow drivers at the VIS down in Melbourne, and we did a VO2 max test, which tests your oxygen level, basically, your cardio fitness, and mine was 67, which they say an AFL footballer is 65 to 70, an elite cyclist is up in the high 70s. They're supposedly the fittest sort of guys, and your average untrained person is around 45. So mine was reasonably high, but I do a fair bit of training with triathlons and stuff like that. So you don't need, I think, maximum fitness out there at the moment. But in the wet, you don't work as hard, but certainly in the dry and these longer stints here at Bathurst, it helps to be as fit as you can.
There's a lot of stats that people don't know about the physical requirements of racing in a race car. Let's just take a look at the race suit alone. 3 layers. Now, it has been tested, and it's kind of like, it's the same as wearing 2 wetsuits and trying to compete in a sport. So, tough environment.
Yeah, well, I mean, when we race in warmer, climates, and here it could be quite hot tomorrow. I mean, Bathurst, it could be hot in about half an hour. The suit can actually double in its weight, and, in a race you can lose anywhere between 3 and 5 kilos. So they say 3% of your body weight is dehydration, so you don't want to lose any more than that, and that all comes back to topping up. But this suit certainly weighs double when you get out, once you've lost a bit of weight.
And G-forces alone, the helmet, then adds another 20 kilos to your head when you're going into the braking zones. There are enormous pressures, but thankfully you're one of the fittest drivers around, and you shouldn't have any concerns here this weekend.
Well, I certainly hope so, mate, but I haven't even really got in there to test it yet, but we will a bit later on.
We did the masses between 10 and 15,000 passing manoeuvres in this race, and no doubt your Monaro is going to do many of them.
Yeah, well, we hope so. There's not much going on at the moment, but look, the guys are going really well, and it's just a matter of keeping our heads, and once we go back to racing, I think it's more of a drive around until the track dries up.
I'll let you get back to your cup of tea.
Good on you. Thanks, mate.
Super fit athlete, isn't he, Cameron McConville? Competed in a triathlon last weekend. Great warm-up for the Bathurst 24-hour. His work is still ahead of him. He'll jump in the car a little bit later tonight. The weather is clearing, as you can see, which is great news for our leaders. Stephen Richards currently in the 427 Monaro. Then we have the Brabham Ferrari. Yes, correct, the Ferrari. Fitzgerald in the Porsche. Then Murph in the 05 Monaro. Then Bow, Marshall, Newton and Bartels.
Further back through the field, we go back to position 9. It's Martin Short in the Mosler from Honduras in the 888 Porsche. Angelo in the Group B BMW 2.3 litre coupe from Wilson. Cramp in the BMW, first of the Group D cars from Jeff Morgan, is driving the Quirks refrigeration BMW M3. Then the first of the invitational cars, the Berry Clinton Jamie Cartwright BMW M3R.
Then Young in the Mitsubishi Lancer. Rowland in the Porsche, Smith, Moore, Donaldson, Gillespie, Blanche and Luff.
Position 25 as we roll back through the field here at this rather wet and damp 24-hour endurance race at Mount Panorama. Philip in the Falcon GT from James Brock, Peter Brock's son in the Honda S2000, Leithhead in the Alfa Romeo. Tony Alford driving the Mitsubishi Mirage, John McElroy, the BA Falcon GT, Mitchell in the BMW M Coupe, Osborne's Toyota Celica.
Then it's Shepherd, Caswell, Woods, Gazard, Hooker, Tomlinson, Miller and Rubus in the Subaru WRX.
Yeah, Robbie had some problems earlier in the race, one of the first problems. Then Brooks's car, Yulden. This is the 24-hour endurance race live from Mount Panorama Bathurst. We'll be back shortly.
The fans as well, not only driving rain but wind too. But they're not going anywhere, they're sticking it out.
No, they're hardy charges, and Brabs, I guess after leading the race for 19 hours last year, you've got some unfinished business here. I mean, you did so well last year until the old bloke with the big ears hit the wall at the top of the mountain.
Yeah, we were. I mean, it's unfortunate, but, that's what can happen in this type of racing, we're obviously the Ferrari's running very well, which is encouraging. It's quick in the dry, it's quick in the wet, and obviously after last year, I certainly would like to be standing on top this year.
Tell us about the rest of the team. I mean, a good lineup. You comfortable in the Engelhorn?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't really know anyone until I got here, except for Montermini. I mean, I raced with him in Formula 1 when he came and joined us at Simtech for a race, and so far so good. I mean, it seems to be pretty good. I mean, the great thing is we've turned up and the guys have just gone out and learnt the track so quickly that it's really helped us.
Now the circuit at the top of the mountain, David, looking a little bit drier, so hopefully we're going to get back to racing conditions. But even if it is a fraction drier, these first few laps after the restart are going to be so treacherous because you can't afford to press on and risk hitting the damp patch again.
No, you can't really. No, you can't.
Back down to the pits and Andrew Marriott.
When we came back from the break, we saw Robert Books being pushed into the wall. Robert was with me and he winced when he saw that. Robert, what happened?
Coming up the hill to the left-hander, tight left-hander near the top, we're in about 4th gear there, so I don't know what speed that is, but and I turned across for it, and the Porsche just took an ambitious overtaking move and kissed the side of the car and pushed me to the wall. Racing accident.
Car's back in the garage now being worked on. You've got to get back out again?
Well, we're going to do our best. It took a fair old thump front right corners, so it might have tweaked the subframe, not the subframe, sorry, the frame. And if it has, we won't get out, but they're doing their best. They're working hard on it.
Robert, away from racing, you're the #1 auctioneer of classic cars and racing cars in the world, aren't you? How's the market at the moment?
That's pretty good right now. We've got Bottoms and Goodman here in Sydney, and we've got a series of big sales coming up, and they're going really well. The Australian market's very strong. The world market's quite strong too. I just hope it carries on.
Should I get my checkbook out, and what for?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely time to buy. I'd like a new M3 BMW if you can, Andrew.
Thanks very much, Robert.
Lights out on the Holden safety car here at Mount Panorama, so we're going to restart this time around. The 24-hour endurance race will be back under green very, very shortly. Stephen Richards in the 427 Monaro, the car that won last year, continues to lead, but it's a Ferrari. In fact, it's David Brabham's Ferrari in second place. David, of course, in the commentary booth. Let's hope the rest of the day for you goes pretty trouble-free, David, and maybe you'll get the 24-hour win that you missed out on so close last year.
Yeah, thanks, and I hope at the end of the day we'll be celebrating a certain game in Sydney as well. Come on, Aussies.
Yo beauty. Peter Fitzgerald in car 54, the Porsche in third place. There's the safety car now coming through the Caltex Hamilton chase. Lights are off, so we're set for a restart. And you can see there's a field of slower cars in front of the race leader, the yellow Monaro, with Stephen Richards behind the wheel. He can't pass anybody, of course, till he gets to the start-finish line.
And those cars, in effect, have lost a lap, of course, to the race leader, because what really should happen is that the race-leading car is behind the safety car. Well, in all the confusion of having to stop them on the grid and so forth, that now means that the leading car is 6th, 7th, 8th in the pack. All of this traffic comes across the line now, and there, 427, the race-leading car in the hands of Stephen Richards, goes for a green flag, thunders across the line. We're back racing then at Mount Panorama, but the car to watch is the Ferrari, number 48, Philippe Pater at the wheel of it. You can see it coming up on the inside, carving its way through the traffic. It's going after the leading Monaro, all of the traffic, and this now really is a testing time for the drivers. How hard do you push?
54 minutes under safety car, 39 now, 40 laps into this 24-hour race, of which we have 22 yet to run, but we're back under green, and again, look at Stephen Richards unleashing the 427.
And look at the Altson Porsche behind it, because that car, ideally suited to these weather conditions, is trying to unlap itself, and it's going to have a look, I think, on the inside, going into Konica Bend, side by side. It's not for position, but it puts Altson back on the lead lap, and that was a very brave bit of driving.
There we see how quick these guys were in the wet last night, no doubt about it, and as you say, very, very important, they stay on the lead lap, no question about that.
Well, Stephen Richards not giving an inch either in the Monaro. He is staying right on the Porsche's tail. This is going to be a hot next couple of laps, and pretty strong under brakes there for Steve Richards too, as he keeps up with the Porsche, which you would expect, skip away.
Oh yeah, very tentative first lap too. I mean, they really don't know how much water is on the track at speed, so they've both got to tiptoe around. No doubt about it, Stephen Richards wants to run with him though, and is not prepared to fall out of the trail of the plume of water that you can see is spraying off the car. Richards is hanging in there. They've just gapped the rest of the field.
That's right, Michael Bartels it is, driving this car that's run by Jürgen Altson's team, Uwe Altsson and Arno Clausen joining him. Those four drivers got the car on pole position for the Nürburgring 24 hours earlier on this year. So the Altson Porsche then, driven by Michael Bartels, 8th place it is, but it's back on the lead lap.
And second in the class, and the reason why he needs to unlap himself is the Tony Quinn, Marcus Marshall, VIP Pet Foods Porsche is leading that class. This is a Class B car. They were leading the class early in the race, got behind in the pit reshuffle. Important now that, of course, he maybe gets a chance to come back at the VIP car.
Now let's just see whether or not the Monaro can gobble up the Porsche once again, coming down Conrad Straight. The way that Stephen Richards is driving, you think this was an actual battle for position, wouldn't you? And he's going to do it.
Look at Richards now. Again, this awesome 6-speed sequential gearbox, Hollinger-driven 427 cubic inch Monaro, the Just Car insurance car that won this event last year. Oh, look, he's trying to run with him. Now through Caltex Hamilton chase, but yields, and the Monaro goes through to regain his position on track.
Yeah, it comes back to this thing we've been talking about being a hero and when is a good time and when's a bad time.
Radio comms from these cars, which we'll be bringing you all weekend as part of our coverage right around Australia of the 24-hour endurance race live from Mount Panorama. Our updates tonight, 10:30, 11:30, and a live 1-hour show from pit lane at 1:30 in the morning, at 12:30 in the morning, folks, right through to 1:30. So whatever you do, don't miss it. Oil flag is out too, David. I notice yellow and red oil flag being waved at the moment.
Yeah, in fairness, I think it's got this dual identity now, slippery surface flag. I don't think the drivers need reminding, really, slippery, because there is a big, big slide from Stephen Richards going through Shell Corner. It was a good save, but that just proves, even for the top drivers, and you think they've got everything under control, just one slight error like that, and suddenly a big slide.
So Richards in 4:27 continues to lead. Brock, our earlier race leader, back there in 05 in third spot. Then it's Fitzgerald in car 54. The John Bower BMW M3 GDR is sitting also inside the top 5.
That's right. In fact, John Bower ahead of Peter Fitzgerald's Porsche. Now in 6th place, we've got the Marcus Marshall Porsche. And then in 7th place, we saw the car going well. Michael Bartels in the Alston Porsche.
The Holden Monaro out in front at Mount Panorama. Stephen Richards leading the way from Brabham, Murphy, Bow, Fitzgerald, Marshall, Bartels and Newton. Back with more in a moment. Good news, the rain is clearing here at Mount Panorama. And the Flying Ferrari is making great time around the track, although it has just been passed by the 05 Monaro, being driven at the moment by Greg Murphy. So it is a Monaro 1-2 once again here at Bathurst.
Yet again, Ferrari back there in third place. Then the BMW M3 GDR of John Bower. The Porsche of Peter Fitzgerald, just been advised by race control car 24. The Tim Harvey car, stop-go penalty for using a spark generator in pit lane.
And that's a car that's already had its problems, of course, with the clutch drama in qualifying, with a punctured tyre earlier on in the race. It was down in 19th place a little earlier, and this enforced pit stop set to be yet another problem for them. But Murph is the man on the move. He's lapping half a second a lap quicker now than Richo in the lead, and the gap between the two Monaros is coming down. You're looking at Philip Pater, who's taken over the Ferrari from David Brabham. He lies third at the moment.
John Bower further back in the field, and interesting to note, looking through the garages earlier today, that Ron Harrop, quite a well-known Australian engineering guru, has been brought in by PHS Scuderia to handle the engineering side of the BMW M3 GDR this weekend here at Bathurst.
But this certainly is the big mover at the moment. The 05 Monaro currently being driven by Greg Murphy. Peter Brock, of course, opened it up earlier today, took it out to the lead, and now Murph is sitting in 2nd place with the Monaro.
And I guess this is where all the strategies come into play, David. I mean, we've seen now such a long safety car period of some 52 minutes, which really throws the fuel window, everything totally out. It's a brand new strategy now. They have to develop from here to the race end. Now we're back under green.
Yeah, that's right. And Greg Murphy's still pressing on. He's just gained another half a second on that lap as he comes across the line, so the gap coming down all the while. Whether he's going to catch up, though, to Stephen Richards before the next round of pit stops, I rather doubt. But, of course, the other thing in all of this is that we still have a very wet road. We have all this traffic for the leaders to contend with. This is so unpredictable now with the slower cars that need negotiating. And if a driver pushes on just a fraction too much and risks making a mistake, we've seen Stephen Richards have a big slide already at Shell Corner starting the lap. Greg Murphy pressing on now, bringing down the gap between himself and his teammate. And there you can see a lapped car ahead of him in 16th place, Paul Stokel's Lamborghini. That was another one that had a puncture and then some brake line damage earlier on. The Lamborghini team playing catch-up, and Greg Murphy thundering on in pursuit of the race leader.
Doing a tremendous job. The current Bathurst winner just came out of Pukekohe, New Zealand on a big high, winning 2 races there. It's been a stellar year for Murph. Goes into next weekend's VIP Pet Foods main event at Eastern Creek with a real chance of an Australian touring car champion and a showdown between Marcus Ambrose and Mark Scaife. That'll be awesome. But the man now is on a move in the Just Car Insurance Monaro. The car he's hoping to give Peter Brock his 10th Bathurst win. He's caught up in traffic, chasing now down the Lamborghini, driven by Paul Stokel. Of course, the car that had the blown right-hand rear tyre broke the rear brake line earlier in the race, and unfortunately now has to come back through the field.
But it's doing the job, because it was 20th before we had that safety car situation. Now Paul Stokel's Lambo up into 16th place. Now he's, what, 4 laps away from the lead, and a big slide for Paul Stokel. And that's the sort of damage built you don't want if you cream the Lamborghini up against the wall at Bathurst. So a slide for Paul Stokel. You see what I mean about the top drivers pressing on that fraction too much, and suddenly it could all go a bit pear-shaped like that.
$700,000 Lamborghini GTR.